Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this is the Mike Graham Show. It is Thursday, I was going to say Monday, it's Thursday, the 2nd of April. We managed to get through April Fool's Day. I must say, I really didn't enjoy all of these stupid, absolute idiotic people going, oh, here's a really funny April Fool's Day joke for you. Because to be honest, the world is so screwed at the moment that almost any story which is meant to be funny could not ever possibly be as ridiculous and crazy as the actual real story that's actually going on. Keir Starmer yesterday gave a press conference, nobody knows why. He didn't say anything very interesting. Donald Trump overnight has been talking about basically how Europe and NATO need to go it alone. He's probably going to pull out of the whole Iran war scenario. Nobody's quite sure how that's going to end. We've got all sorts of headlines today about all of that, which we'll talk about throughout the course of the next couple of hours. And we will now, I can actually say this with some alacrity, we'll be taking your calls as well, because we can now take calls. Last 2 days, we've been putting calls on around about 9:30 because we ask you to basically stay with us after the finish of this show at 9:30 and move over to the new UK online, UK Live online. Do you know what, actually? I've got to say this to you, Pooch, because I forgot to say this morning. Apparently, if you put UK Live into YouTube, it doesn't find our station. You have to, because it's UK Live online, right? So if you're looking for it, that's how you find it. It's UK Live Online. This is going to be the channel where we're going to have all sorts of other really good goodies for you once this particular show. There is going to be big news. Yeah, we're going to be, Richie Taylor's joining us from Wales. He's got an update for us on the whole Edward Hughes scandal, which is broken out here. It's similar to Scott Mills, only it doesn't involve anybody underage. But it's very similar to what was going on there. William Yarwood's here from the Taxpayers Alliance. Good to see you, William.
Good to see you, Mike. How are you, man?
I was saying to Pooch, because Pooch wasn't here this time last week, and so he didn't have the pleasure of witnessing you collapsing as I was ranting and raving on about shooting people on the marathon run, which went down very well, I think.
It did indeed. I saw loads of people in the comments, not just on that episode, but on the clip you did afterwards, saying that was the best run I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
And also one thing people seemingly did like was the way in which, after you'd finished speaking, they could just hear me crying in the background, just laughing my face off. And and when I went into the office, I showed all the lads at the TPA creasing out of their sides, mate. They absolutely loved it.
Because they all agree with me, they just can't say it because it's not considered to be the right thing to say.
But unfortunately, Mike, I do have one thing to tell you. I did meet someone that evening, one person in my friendship group, who is doing the London Marathon.
Oh, right.
And I said, well, make sure you're not running past Mike Graham's house because he's going...
Also, make sure you finish it by 4 hours, otherwise we're going to run you over. You know, clearly. I mean, that's the thing. Lots to talk about this morning. Absolutely. I mean, all the headlines basically on the front page is mostly around about Trump. Furious Trump threatens to withdraw from NATO on the front page of the Times. Now Trump goes to war on NATO, front page of the Mail. US could quit NATO, front page of the Telegraph. My favourite quote from the overnight sort of reels, if you like, of Donald Trump is the one where he talks about Emmanuel Macron, which I think we can play, if you don't mind, Pooch. Have we got that one? Let's have a look at this. This is great.
So he gets off public, says, man, that was easier than I thought. Then I call up France, Macron, whose wife treats him extremely badly. And he's still recovering from the right to the jaw. And I say, Emmanuel, we'd love to have some help in the Gulf, even though we're setting records and knocking out bad people and knocking out ballistic missiles. We'd love to have some help. If you could you please send ships immediately? No. We cannot do that, Donald. We can do that after the war is won. I said, no, I don't need after the war is won, Emmanuel. Many of them said, we'll be there after the war is completed. And so I learned about...
I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, only Trump can get away with that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone's laughing about it as well.
He calls it, whose wife treats him extremely badly, you know, right hook to the jaw. Brilliant.
Well, yeah, because he did wear those sunglasses, didn't he, on that trip? And he said, you know, it's sort of, you know, I walked into a cupboard or something along those lines. His wife's been beating him up.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely fantastic.
Good on her.
But, you know, there is no doubt, isn't there, that I think there's a sort of a crack, if you like, in the whole kind of the nature of NATO and the fact that America is no longer willing to just completely bankroll Western Europe to protect Western Europe.
Yeah, well, also, interestingly, I remember a former Secretary General of NATO actually said, quite controversially at an event, he said, well, you know, I'm going to say something very nice about President Trump, which some people aren't going to like. But the best thing that President Trump has done for the alliance is actually make us more reliant on our own defence.
Yeah.
Trump's main problem since he was running as the Republican candidate in 2015, 2016, was basically that Europe were free riding and freeloading off the United States, which, when you look at the statistics, is actually true. And if we want to care about our own security, whether it's in relation to Ukraine or in relation to Russia or in relation to what's going on in the Middle East now, it makes complete sense that we should be investing in our own defence. And Trump has been right to push that through and make European countries actually step up to the plate.
Because if you are an American, for example, and I've got plenty of American friends, they're all a bit puzzled as to why they're paying for sort of Western European security. It's like, well, we don't mind being on your side and being of assistance if something happens, but why are we paying the sort of the thick end of all the money to protect what is essentially your property?
Because we'd have the same issue if it was the other way around, Mike, wouldn't we? We'd have an even bigger issue.
If we were paying, for example, to safeguard the Mexican border or something, people would go, well, hang on a minute, what are we doing that for?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think also in regards to the NATO story more broadly, I mean, it reminds me slightly, it smacks of sort of when he was saber-rattling over Greenland and you told everyone rightly, just everyone calm down, breathe.
Yes.
This is just spitballing. This is just saber-rattling.
Yeah.
I think to some extent this is the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Trump is getting annoyed with NATO allies not backing him over Iran for a variety of reasons, where some of them obviously just being they don't want to get involved or they don't have the money or more complicated geopolitical reasons. Trump is getting irritated with that because he believed that basically once he started the Iran war, all these other countries would pile on in to help him end it quicker.
Yeah.
But that's just not been the case, especially not here in the United Kingdom. So Trump is doing his usual thing of throwing the baby out the bathwater and saying, well, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to do this. But 9 times out of 10, there's always a conversation after that. Like I believe there's a NATO general going over to the United States to talk to Trump today.
It's such a kind of an emergency. And my understanding is that he might not be going until after Easter.
Yeah.
So he's like going after the long Good Friday and Easter Monday. So it can't be that much of an emergency, can it?
No, well, I suppose maybe maybe NATO generals higher up are actually just seeing this for what it is, which is saber-rattling. And I would say, even though, as usual, the front pages are full of it because it's quite alarmist, some of it as well. I think the front page of the Daily Mail is probably the most alarmist version of it. I think everyone in Britain...
Trump goes to war on NATO.
Britain needs to just calm down a little bit because I don't think this is genuinely going to happen.
No, I don't think so. However, there is probably room for a reset in some way, shape or form, though, because all of these countries in Europe are not exactly friendly to the United States when it comes to trade. The European Union in particular doesn't really like America, and they make no secret of it. As he said there, Emmanuel Macron, his wife treats him really badly, which is very funny. But if I was the US and I was running the Trump administration, I would go, stick 2 fingers up to them. And go, look, not only are you not particularly friendly to us, but actually you didn't really offer yourselves to be our ally in the middle of the first wave of the strikes against Iran. So, if that's the way you're going to feel, then we're going to go the same way and we're going to go, well, we're not going to help you out either.
Yeah, and in many ways, this has been the case for obviously decades. I mean, the way in which Europe has free-rided off the United States has been a disgrace, and then we wonder why we've depleted our own defence capabilities. I think when it comes to NATO reform more seriously, Mike, I think actually Trump could do one of 2 things. Trump could actually go in and say to NATO leaders, okay, I know you have this sort of advised 0.7% of GDP on defence that you sort of enforce on your member states, but the issue is no one really, apart from the United Kingdom, maybe 1 or 2 others actually do it. I think actually it needs to be enforced on a more concrete level, and also actually the 0.7% figure needs to be a lot higher, so it needs to be, not 2%, it needs to possibly be 3 or 4%
well,
of
I mean,
GDP.
Starmer, of course, keeps saying that he's upping the number of investments into NATO and into the defence of the realm, but it won't happen until 2029. He's talking about upping it from 2.0 to 2.5%, which is not very much, really.
No.
And it's not going to happen until 2029 anyway.
But also, it's all about priorities, isn't it? Like, Starmer could go further on this, and so could the last Conservative government. But the issue is they prioritise things like welfare and healthcare over defence and actually energy security. And we've done this for decades, Mike. We've done this for decades. And we wonder why we have no energy security in this country and why we're so,
and why we don't have any ships, for example.
And why we've got no ships. I mean, I think we spend more on welfare than we do on the Navy.
We do.
Which is eye-wateringly insane for an island nation.
And yesterday we were told by a senior military analyst or a senior former member of the military that actually we're not ready for war. The Navy is not ready for war. And if the Navy's not ready for war, what's it good for?
Exactly. Precisely. And also for a maritime nation like us, that should send alarm bells through the sky.
You would think.
But you would think, right? But again, I think that Starmer and Reeves are unwilling to do the trade-offs, which comes with actually funding defence properly or investing in energy security, because they're one and the same. They're linked. Because, of course, they're radical on the net zero stuff. Ed Miliband is especially, of course. And when it comes to defence spending, they'd much rather, hike, hike to two-child benefit cap. They'd much rather hike PIP and universal credit than actually spend money on soldiers, defence infrastructure in the like.
Did I not see a story over the weekend about how much money, and I think it was a couple of £100 million that the Navy have spent on a net zero project.
Yes.
To make sure that basically, they're not, their emissions are not too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, never mind, the fact that we've been attacked right, left and centre by various foes. As long as the net zero quotient is all right, then we'll be fine.
And that shows you something, doesn't it? It shows you how deep the net zero agenda is seeped into other areas of policy, not just energy, right? It's now seeped into defence when the Navy is now concerned about its net zero emissions. You're the Navy. That should be the last of your concerns.
Yeah, have you watched Top Gun? You see the way the planes take off. There's not much zero emission talk going on. When they go Maverick, come back in.
Sorry, you're in the net zero danger zone.
I mean, seriously, unbelievable. Very good. I see what you did there. Now let's have a look at the idiot Starmer. Though he had a press conference yesterday. He called it with great sort of fanfare, as if there was going to be some kind of massive announcement to be made, right? And people said, well, normally speaking, it's a bit like a State of the Union address. When the President of America gets up and says, I'm going to address the nation, there's normally something to be said. Similarly, we're supposed to have something to be expected to be said when Keir Starmer says he's going to issue a major announcement, right? But we watched it yesterday, and he said absolutely nothing at all. Have a look.
President Trump said yesterday that he wouldn't come to the aid of the UK anymore in his Truth Social post. How seriously do you take that threat from our main ally?
Well, it's very important that we're clear. There's been a good deal of pressure on me to change my position in relation to joining the war, and I'm not going to change my position on the war. So whatever the pressure, whatever the noise, I'm the British Prime Minister and I have to act in our national interests. I should say that on defence and security and intelligence, we're obviously working closely with the US, as we always do. And in relation to the planning on the Strait of Hormuz, of course, that involves talking to the Americans as well. So, as I say, whatever the pressure, whatever the noise, my job is, as British Prime Minister, to concentrate on what's in the British national interest. That's what's guided me through this conflict so far. It will continue to guide me as we go forward. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
I mean, he keeps saying what he's doing is in the British national interest, and he also keeps trying to convince himself that we're not involved in the broader, wider war. But, we're now sending troops to the Middle East. We've now got a ship in theatre. Yeah. We've now got the Americans using British bases from both Britain and in Cyprus. Yeah. I'm not quite sure exactly which bit of the I'm not involved in a wider war he doesn't get.
I know.
Because we are in a wider war,
of course we are. Once you allow... I mean, I'm in favour of letting the Americans use our bases. I'm in favour of sending, ships over to try and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, although I think that ship took... and shows you just how rubbish our defence capabilities are at the moment. That ship took weeks to even just deploy, never mind get to its destination. Right. But the problem with Starmer's speech there, actually, Mike, is I remember him giving a speech a few weeks ago, which was not just... sort of the same, a carbon copy. He didn't say anything new, and I think this is just the political news cycle, right? Starmer is being accused of inaction and not doing anything, so he thinks, I'm going to give a speech where I'm going to say I am in the national interest. Please, let me be absolutely clear. Yeah. That's what he's doing. Clear. And it's just to stand up and say he's do something. He spoke for 5 minutes, and then I took a bunch of questions about EU realignment, and then, as usual, said absolutely nothing. Yeah. So I was sat there in the office, writing our press release to this, and I was screaming at the TV, going, Say something, man. Yeah. Say something, man. Something. Because he all he did in that speech is double down on net zero like he always has, and also refused to commit to extending the fuel duty freeze, which is so desperately needed for many motorists around this country.
And all he does is continue to talk about the EU. Like PM crawls back to his EU friends, is what it says in the middle of the mail today. Middle East is in flames, meanwhile, right? Starmer now has a plan to seek closer ties with European Union partners. So he's basically seeing this whole sort of conflagration of war in the Middle East as an excuse
Yeah.
to get closer to the European Union.
Yeah.
Which, of course, he always wanted to do. He always wanted to have a second referendum. He was the shadow Brexit secretary, if you remember. You know, he was never keen on the fact that we actually voted to leave the European Union. And so all he knows is to go and cozy up to, you know, old Ursula von der Leyen and go, oh, let's come back into the folds of the European Union, who basically haven't got a pot to piss in when it comes to the defence of the realm. You know, Ursula von der Leyen is the woman who, when she was Defence Secretary of Germany, actually had the German army issued with broomsticks because they didn't have enough money to buy any guns. Right? And so they actually used to do war games with broomsticks, pretending they were firing guns. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, I know Germans have a history of being disarmed, but my God, that's taking it to another level, isn't it?
I mean, I'm not in favour of arming the Germans, obviously, because, you know, that could be...
haven't got a good history there, have they?
could be problematic.
Yeah, no, a bit of a problem
In fact, we've got a poll out there, haven't we, Pooch? What's the poll say? The poll today is what would happen, I think, if NATO, in fact, is more or less done away with and dissolved. What would then happen? I'm not sure if we've got it. You haven't got it? Okay, but I think basically it's things like, you know, we wouldn't have any ships from Britain involved. I think the Italians would only be allowed to drive in reverse. Germans would be in charge, right? But they wouldn't be allowed to have any guns. And what was the last one?
French surrender.
Yeah, the French would just surrender to everyone. You know, that's what we're dealing with. You know, no wonder Trump's going, why am I giving all you bozos all this money? What are you doing with it?
What are you doing with it exactly? You're doing absolutely nothing. Well, what we're doing with it is making sure our Navy is net zero efficient. That's what we're doing with it.
I know. It is incredible, isn't it?
It's completely crazy. But also, to be honest with you, with all of this, no one should be surprised. No one should be surprised that Trump is annoyed with us about this. No one should be surprised that Keir Starmer's trying to do EU realignment. And no one should be surprised that defence chiefs in the United Kingdom, who have been actually banging this drum for a very long time, are coming out once again and saying, guys, there's a very dangerous world. We're not prepared for it. Can we please spend more money on defence?
Yes.
And Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves will go, oh, what's that? Spend more money on welfare? Oh, yes, absolutely. And the defence chiefs will go,
oh, my God. I mean, you've got angry Rachel Reeves, apparently, saying that she's blaming the recession on Trump's Iran war.
That's
which is
convenient.
what we knew that she would do, right? Because she's going to go, oh, it's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And there she is, Richard III. Nothing to do with me, Gov. You know, it was all going so well until Trump invaded Iran. Well, no, it wasn't going well.
No.
We were already in the dark, deep, horrible stuff, right? Thanks to Rachel Reeves, because she doesn't know how to run a bloody Welk stand, never mind the economy.
I mean, this was before the Iran war kicked off. There was zero growth in January. Zero.
Yeah.
Like, the economy just didn't move.
Right.
That was before the Iran crisis kicked off. And obviously, you know, Venezuela was going on, but that was only maybe like a few hours and actually didn't affect the United Kingdom.
Venezuela was of no consequence.
There was no consequence at all.
At all.
Right. So, absolutely no consequence at all.
In fact, the only thing that it actually did was to show Rachel Reeves where Venezuela was, because she'd never heard of it before. She was like, where's Venezuela?
Oh, can I tax them?
You know, is it near Beckenham? You know, she didn't have a bloody clue.
We talked about this before, Mike, and Rachel Reeves does this all the time. It's always, it's not me, Gov, not my fault, not my problem. You know, I didn't know about this. And it's like, okay, well, what's the point of you if you don't know about anything? It's never any of your problem and you're just sort of caught up in circumstances. Well, who's to blame then, Rachel? And he goes, events. It's like Rachel.
Well, I've got another clip I can show you of Rachel Reeves talking yesterday where she's basically making out that don't worry about the high cost of energy and the difficulties in paying your electricity bills or your gas bills because it's warm enough that you don't have to put the heating on. This is actually her logic, right? Have a look at this.
From July to September, gas usage, especially by families and pensioners, is the lowest of any months of the year because it is the summer months. And then it will be really from the autumn onwards that people's gas usage starts increasing.
She looks like she's just got there, hasn't she?
Yeah,
she's been out all night.
Night on the town. She's had a few too many gin and tonics.
Yeah, she's spent the night on her hands and knees. Sorry, that's not what I meant. But, you know, the fact is she's going, oh, we're in the summer months. Are we? She's been outside. Yeah. You know, it's freezing.
Exactly.
It's still freezing. People need to put their heating on.
Yeah.
And particularly pensioners need to put their heating on.
Yeah.
And they can't afford to. So they're now shivering. And she's going, oh, don't worry, we're in the summer months. It's bloody April, woman. You know, it's stupid.
Again, it's, oh, don't worry, guys. The weather will sort it all out. I don't have to do anything at all because I'm fantastic and my name's Rachel Reeves.
Yeah.
But also, interestingly, one of the reasons Rachel Reeves, and there was a great story on the front page of the Times the other day about this, is one of the reasons, and now, we've sort of knew this for a while, one of the reasons Reeves does not want to cut fuel duty or extend the freeze is because apparently she's raking in an extra 20 million quid a day due to high oil prices, which means that actually she's going to be thinking, I might squeeze this for as long as I can do so that when it comes to the autumn budget, I can throw more money to my backbenchers to keep them on side to make sure that I stay in my position. Presuming, of course, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are still there in September,
well, I can't believe that either one of them will be, surely to Christ, because we're hearing all sorts of terrible stories about how disgracefully they're going to be done over in the local elections on May the 7th. I mean, I'm seeing anywhere between sort of 1,900 and 2,100 seats gone, right? So they're going to lose pretty much all the seats they've got.
Yeah, which means, and also you add that to the Tories as well, who are also going to lose quite badly in a lot of areas. And they will maybe gain in some areas in London where Reform doesn't really have a big presence and the Greens don't have a big presence. But what you're going to see post the May elections is that the two-party system at the local level, which has dominated the local level for decades, longer than decades, they're going to have no foot soldiers, no activists, no local councils, no local councillors. And at that point, you would think, what is the point of these two main parties at this point when all you have is members at the national level in Parliament?
And all they've really got to say, and particularly the Tories at the moment, is that, we're the only truly kind of, believable, credible party that can fix the economy. And you go, well, that's all very fine, but for 14 years you didn't fix the economy. In fact, not only did you not fix the economy, but you actually made it all worse.
Yes, quite.
And you created the kind of, the landscape, if you like, for the Labour government to then make it even worse.
Yeah, I have great affection for many frontbench shadow cabinet ministers, some of whom I know personally and I do like, and I've got quite a lot of affection for some of the new 2024 intake of Conservatives who, objectively, the last 14 years is not their fault because they weren't there for it, so I get that. But the problem I have whenever Conservatives talk about the economy on TV, whether it's the Shadow Chancellor, the Shadow Business Secretary, when they talk about debt, borrowing, spending, I'm like, I'm nodding there, like, I'm agreeing, and I'm thinking like, oh, who increased the national debt by threefold? It was
But that's
you
the
lot,
problem. I mean,
right?
as good as some of those people are, I know who you mean, and I know some of them as well, and they're not inestimable people.
No.
The trouble is that their legacy is one which would point to the fact that, and many of them were in the party at some point or other, they might not have been in the cabinet back in sort of, the days of Cameron and Osborne and all that, but they were probably still there.
Yes.
And the fact is that people view the Conservative Party as profligate, as hopeless, as, a party that kind of drove us onto the rocks. And now we still remain on the rocks.
Exactly.
And the Labour Party can't get us off them.
Exactly. And that's not going to change in the minds of voters, because whenever somebody says, whenever a Conservative pops up, whenever a Conservative message pops up, you look at the comments in the Facebook or on Twitter, and what's the answer? 14 years, 14 years, 14 years, 14 years. And actually, Mike, whenever I hear a Conservative say anything, those two phrases are in my head. Right.
And I mean, when I used to take a lot of calls in the old days at Talk, even after the July landslide that Labour won in 2024, people would just say, we don't even bother putting Conservative Party shadow ministers on. What's the point of listening to them? Because we don't care. They had their chance and they screwed it all up. And that's
exactly.
the way people feel.
And people were expecting this. I remember towards the end of last year, there was this sort of hype around the so-called Kemi bounce, right, post-autumn budget. Where is that gone? Like, that was clearly an SW1 bubble issue. It didn't really matter. It was just so like lobby hacks and think tank people could get all excited and go, "Oh, Kemi's back!
They're
the boss is back." It's like, no, like they went from, I think, 24, even higher than that, maybe 24, 25, 26% in the polls after the general election into July 2024 to now barely 18 to 17%. So there's not been a bounce. There's been a dramatic decline.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, I think she was on at the weekend on Sunday morning sort of rounds doing Laura Kuenssberg and various other shows, Trevor Phillips and Camilla Tominey on GB News. And they pointed out to her that actually, since you've been in charge of the Tories, your popularity rating has actually gone down.
Yeah.
And she tried to explain it away by some kind of statistical anomaly. And it's like, well, no, you've actually gone down in popularity.
Yeah,
that's
the statistical anomaly there is people just don't like you.
Yeah.
That's the anomaly there. Like you're the anomaly here. And I say this as someone who doesn't dislike Kemi at all. Doesn't dislike Kemi at all.
No, I don't dislike it.
And actually, to be fair, this is the first time I've been on your show where we don't have to sit through PMQs for once, which is actually a nice change of pace. And every single time we watch it, we go, go on, Kemi, give him a kicking, and she usually does. But that's for people like me and you, Mike, and your viewers at home. The majority of people don't wake up at 7 o'clock and watch shows like this.
No.
Most people are going to work, minding their own business, not tuned in politics at all. And therefore, how on earth does the Tory party cut through to them? Because, well, they don't, for one. And the second thing, whenever you say Tory to them, they think, oh, that was that Cameron and Sunak guy, and they were rubbish, and my energy bills went up, and also that didn't Liz Truss increase my mortgage prices? Like, that's their response.
I'm now paying more tax than I ever did.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's the response here.
And that hasn't changed. Well, I mean, the only thing you can say in defence of the Tories, though, is at least they tended to know, or they do tend to know what the facts are, right? Let's have a look at Peter Kyle, who's the business secretary.
Oh, God.
He was on with Nick Ferrari yesterday, attempting to sort of explain how the economy was going. And it was another car crash. Have a look.
Why are you failing to get the jobless figure down?
Well, we are, as I said, we are investing in the economy, and we've just seen in recent days, despite
Do you know how many people are unemployed at the moment, Secretary of State?
Well, I know that there is a challenge with unemployment, and we
Do you know how many it is, Secretary of State?
I don't know the exact
You're the
figure.
Business and Trade Secretary, and you don't know how many people are unemployed.
No, I'm not. I'm also. I am. My job is to make sure I support businesses in employing.
It's 1.87 million,
5.2%,
5.2%, and another 1,500 have just been added. Please don't give me this trite nonsense about Labour getting people into employment. It's going completely the other way.
The way to get the people into employment is to get a healthy, growing economy. We have had 10 years that we inherited where there was no growth and high taxation, and we had this vice-like grip on the economy where the only way you got more money into public spending was to borrow more, which is what the Tories did. We had to raise money, invest it, but we also had to do the things that got growth in me. We got a grip on the cost of living challenges, and we are investing in getting money into people's pockets.
Yeah, but he hasn't put money into people's pockets.
No.
One, they haven't invested in growth.
No.
Two, the only way to invest in growth is to give money to a business which is not coming from the central tax coffers, but is actually generated by the businesses themselves. That's what's called growth. These idiots seem to think that growth is only stimulated by the government, by giving away free money, which they've had to take from taxpayers in order to actually get it.
Yeah, quite. And the
That's
interest,
not growth.
No, of course it isn't. And when they came out also and said we're going to have like a relief package to hospitality and a relief package to businesses, it's like you're the ones who hike their taxes when it comes to employers' national insurance, put more regulation on them, and also now with the minimum wage going up, it's like good luck to young people trying to get a job and getting rung on the ladder because they're not going to be able to because these morons have just imposed more costs on businesses and they go, why is there no growth? Look in the mirror. You're the reason there's no growth.
Yeah, you're the reason there's no growth. And also, as rather succinctly put by Nick Ferrari there, you are the Business and Commerce Secretary. You don't know how many people are unemployed. Is that right? Now, we've got some super chats to do. I've got a slight problem, Pooch, because Pooch has installed a new TV screen for me to watch.
Oh, very nice.
But unfortunately, when he puts the messages up there, they appear backwards.
Oh, right, okay.
So, and I mean, as clever as I am, I can't read them backwards. So I'm going to have to read them over here, over there. Yeah, no, it comes up as like a mirror image, which is fine. But I can read them over here.
There we are.
So you put them there, and that's not a problem because it's another great innovation. I mean, every day, Pooch brings another innovation to the world.
I like that. Got to keep improving. Always got to keep improving.
We do. But then we have to sort of have a few teething problems. We have to figure it out. So super chats, please. Do keep them coming. This one from Easy Boy. Please give it a trigger warning when showing gear Starmer. I know it does upset people. It really does. That is great. We should do that actually every time. What else we got? This one. Can you imagine turning up on a Tinder date and it's Rachel from Accounts? It's red, black. Also, she wouldn't pay her way, would she?
No, she wouldn't.
She wouldn't have any money of her own.
She'd ask you.
She'd have to go round the pub and go, look, can you give me like
can I have your credit card, mate?
Just give me a credit card, because I've got to pay for my dinner.
How much have you spent on G&Ts?
Fraser says this, the show always puts me in a good mood. Go, Mike. Fraser, thank you very much indeed. We had a few messages earlier on from when we told them you were coming on, actually. I'll tell you about it in a minute. Cindy says this, my Mike, I finally figured out how to call in on Substack. I'll be happy to explain how to ring in when I call today. Brilliant. So we're taking your calls. If you're on Substack and you are one of our paid up members, you will be able to get instructions as to how to get through. Jane says this on Super Chat. Let me be clear. I have never done anything in the national interest, only in the EU and Islam's interest. Well, that's true as well. He talks about doing things in the national interest. Funnily enough, I was reading up on old Starmer the other day, and his entire career until he became a politician Brilliant impression of Starmer, William,
Oh,
says David.
thank you.
It was
Let me
very
be
good.
clear.
Let me be clear. This bloke's quite funny, says Glenn.
Oh, I am. Thank you
Somebody
very much.
sent one in earlier saying, is William known as Big Willie? Because we'd
Big
like
Willie.
to call him that. Have you-
No,
anybody ever called you that?
no one's ever called me that before.
Really?
No one ever has. No one ever
William
has.
is great, wasn't it? But it's the first time for everything.
Yeah.
There you go. Love him, Big
cheers.
Willie. There you go.
Cheers, Pooch.
That's from Pooch. Yeah, take it easy, Pooch. You know, he hasn't had much sleep. No, but the thing is, everything he did until the moment he became sort of a Labour Party MP basically involved going to places like Cuba, Russia, the Czech Republic,
Yes.
right, Eastern Europe, fact-finding missions. He went to South Africa to go and do something with Nelson Mandela. You know, this is a bloke who doesn't even, I don't think, understand Britain.
No.
He's not interested in
Because
Britain.
he's not spent much time here.
No,
in
he's not
real
interested
reality.
in Britain at all. He's more interested in forging this kind of, international, world without borders type crap. Where he's kind of, patted on the back by all and sundry from all sorts of, different campaigns around the world.
Well, it explains also why he likes going on jet-setting holidays
Yeah, it
abroad
does.
on the
He
taxpayers'
loves going
dime,
abroad,
right?
yeah.
And also, actually, more broadly, Mike, it explains also the general nature of most of our Labour MPs at the moment. I know Chris Hope, I believe, is the political editor of GB
Yes.
News. He posted a tweet the other day of a screenshot
that, yeah.
from, I think, from the Telegraph. And it says something along the lines of the majority of Labour MPs are either they've worked in charities, they've worked in the public sector, they've worked in a
Right.
trade union, or they've worked in politics all
Yes.
their life. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that explains why they have the views that they do.
Yeah.
And they don't know how business works. They have no interest in how business works. They don't know how to grow an economy. And they actually don't actually care all that much about
No.
ordinary people.
No.
And actually think that what ordinary people want actually is just more free handouts from the government, when actually most ordinary people want the government, on the whole, to stop taking all their money
Yeah.
and leave them hell alone.
Absolutely right. A good one there about football, the football business, because a lot of people saying over the weekend that, we shouldn't be politicising football after Nigel Farage went to
Yes.
Ipswich Town, remember? And that ridiculous, pathetic apology from the chairman of Ipswich Town Football Club. You would think somebody had gone in there with a machine gun and literally killed everyone, and they went, "Oh, it's very regrettable."
Let me be
Lessons
clear,
will
I
be
was
learned."
not the one in charge of the
Lessons
machine
will
gun.
be learned. I understand that lots of people are hurting. No, the bloody, the guy went in there, held up some kind of trophy that they used to have, because they haven't won one for a while, and put it in. And it's just ridiculous, for God's sake. This one says this, this is from Pooch. If calling in via Substack, please tick the echo cancellation box. Why would you have to have an echo cancellation box?
Otherwise they'll hear.
Yeah, but
yes, they will have
why
them,
would you want an echo though?
No, it means you don't get it.
No, I know, but why would you? Why would you get an echo? Why would you have to opt out? It's like, would you like this call to sound like crap? No, tick. Thank you very much. So there's a thing about Arsenal which just came up. Could you please apologise on behalf of I'm still waiting for the Arsenal chairman's apology for letting Starmer in. R.I.P. Ipswich Town. I mean, very true. What else we got here? Shall we have a look at Aisha Hazarika? I don't know if you've seen this story, right?
Go on.
This is yesterday. She's now a baroness, believe it or not. She's a former Labour sort of apparatchik, right?
I have
She does
seen
a
this.
show on Times
Yes,
Radio.
I
I
have
actually
seen
know
this.
her because I used to do shows with her when I was over in that part of the world.
Sorry
she was
about
doing a handover or a sort of a little chit chat with Stig Abel, who does the breakfast show there, who's on currently. Don't go and listen to it now because it's bloody awful. Stig Abel, who's Mr. kind of smug. He's one of these guys. He's sort of Mr. Humble Brag. He goes along and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've written a few books, but they're not very good."
Oh, really?
And you go, "Oh, well, why did you tell me then?"
Yeah.
"Oh, you wanted me to know that you wrote some books." He's not a terrible guy. But anyway, Aisha Hazarika, who happens to be a Muslim, from Scotland, parents live in Glasgow. I think her dad's a dentist, I think she told me. Anyway, just have a listen to this. This is their sort of chatty, cheery handover where he and she make a joke about grooming gangs.
Right.
Check it out.
There's something for everyone.
I
in this.
feel that you encourage me in this area.
I'm like an enabler.
Yeah, you are.
I like
You're a
enable,
groomer.
and then like I'm a groomer. Oh my god! Just because I'm Muslim, stop it. Honestly. Right. Okay.
Don't groom me. Don't groom me, Aisha.
There'll be an inquiry, a judge-led inquiry into me right now. Right, Stig. Absolute pleasure as ever, and I'll speak to you next week. That's the brilliant Stig Abel.
Yeah. That's the way that the smug people on Times Radio operate, right?
Yeah.
They just think everything's a joke. Nothing is really that serious because they're all middle class and none of them really need a job because they don't really need the money. She's, as I say, a baroness in the House of Lords now. Stig has got more money than sense, doesn't really need to work, and it's all terribly funny. Let's make a joke about grooming gangs.
Yeah.
And obviously people who have been involved in trying to, one, prosecute grooming gangs, or two, have been victims of them are pretty upset about
Yeah,
it.
of course they are, because there's nothing funny about the industrial rape of white young girls at the hands of Pakistani Muslim men as a starter.
Yeah, well,
Mike,
I mean,
right?
you said it.
Yeah,
you know.
there's nothing funny about that even remotely, and there's also nothing funny about how Aisha and the Labour Party were key in covering this whole thing up because of course this happened in their areas while they were pandering to the Muslim vote and keeping them on side. And also there's nothing funny about like supposed, people on mainstream broadcast stations joking about an issue which is still actually, worst people forget, is still going on in this country as we speak. And I mean, I never get invited on Times Radio, as you can probably imagine.
Imagine if I went on Times Radio and made a few jokes about, isn't it great that the Israelis have now come up with a death penalty, but it's only for Palestinians? And I'm really happy about that because I quite like to put a load of Palestinians to death because they're the scum of the earth. And I'd be taken off the air.
Yeah, you would be taken off the air.
Or I'd be fired like I was last time. For so-called, thought crimes. But, that won't happen to them because they're safe.
Yeah,
because
they're
good people, they're nice people, they're middle-class people.
Yeah.
And they don't say anything which they didn't really mean, and they might have to say sorry. I'll be interested to see how News treats it, actually, because News should take her off the air, and they should take him off the air.
But they're not going to, as you said, they're not going to at all because they have a sort of class protection, as you said earlier, but also because their listener base, even though hilariously your listener base have actually agreed with what you agreed with you, but also their listener base probably thinks, oh yeah, it's a completely harmless joke because it doesn't. Precisely, that's the key thing. It doesn't affect them. These people have never been to Rotherham or Rochdale or other areas where the grooming gangs have been prolific, and also they don't care about it because they ultimately think that it's some sort of far right conspiracy theory. But actually, as we know and have known for quite a while, it's not even remotely a conspiracy theory. It's a complete disgrace and it's a stain on the nation. And, I'm all for freedom of speech and making jokes about dark things, but making jokes about grooming gang victims and the grooming gangs, I actually think, personally, for me, and that's coming from me, it's a slight step too far.
And for her to say, because she knows what she's talking about, I'm going to get a judge-led inquiry into me now because I've been encouraging you to be groomed. That's not funny.
No.
And I'm one of those people that will pretty much laugh at anything.
Yeah, exactly.
As you know, we've had plenty of funny conversations about that. But, it's so insensitive, and I think the reason it's more offensive than it would otherwise be is because of how insulated they are from the real world and how ridiculous they seem because they don't get it. They don't understand the people they're supposed to represent. She's supposed to be a Labour peer. She's supposed to represent the working class white girls of this country, but she doesn't because she's not white and she doesn't understand what they're going through.
Quite. And, New Labour Blairite types like her, not her directly, but when I remember Sarah Champion, who was the MP for Rotherham, actually came out and said that, Pakistani men in her area are treating white girls, I think, as easy meat or whatever it was. That was years ago.
Right.
And she was completely pilloried by people inside of her own party for being a bigot and a racist. And Sarah, I believe, I remember at the time, this was God knows how many years ago now, but she was just, I remember being on TV and being like, well, it's true. I mean, I'm not saying anything that the average person in Rotherham doesn't disagree, doesn't see, or doesn't agree with. I think the key point with this is that they, of course, are insulated from it. But actually, my biggest problem is that these kinds of people were the ones involved in covering it up or denying its existence. And that's what irritates me more.
And they would be the first people to jump down your throat if you happen to go onto Times Radio and start accusing Pakistani men of raping women on an industrial scale because they're white. Because they would call you a racist.
Well, I don't care.
I know. What I'm saying is that's the hypocrisy of where these people's position is, right? And Stig Abel is an enabler, quite frankly. A lot of you sending in very, very interesting comments here. Let's have a look at some of them. Sorry, Pooch. Because you're quite right. I mean, a lot of people say they're going to complain to Ofcom. And I'm not, as you know very well, I am not somebody that advocates for the end of days and for people to be taken off air and stuff like that. But I think in this case, I think these people should be treated in the same way that they would have been treated if they'd gone in the opposite direction. Would she joke if it was gangs of white men raping Muslim girls, says Paul? No, of course she wouldn't. And if she did, nobody would bat an eyelid if they were taken off the air. Muslims are becoming untouchable, which is not going to end well, says Steve. Also good. And this one from Good Perry. I wonder if she would make such callous jokes if she had been groomed. Well, no, of course not, because she comes from a very wealthy family. She comes from a very good background. She happens to be from Scotland, but she's an Asian woman whose father came, I think, from India back in the day and is a dentist. Freedom of speech isn't freedom of consequences, says Scottish Celts. No, exactly right. And she's now a peer in the House of Lords. She should be more responsible. She should be smarter than that, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, that was like one of those little aside conversations that you have off air. You don't have them on air.
No, absolutely not.
Right? Just before we finish, though,
Mike, I've got a good
go on.
list. There you go.
One more.
If people want to complain to Ofcom.
Okay. If you want to complain to Ofcom, make a complaint. This is www.ofcom.org.uk, and it's make a complaint, complain about TV, radio, or on-demand services. And we'll find that in the chat. You can just click on the link.
But unfortunately, because it's not about GB News, they won't listen.
No, of course not. No, because all their people are busy looking at GB News.
Yeah.
Final one for you, because this, again, sort of relatable, is about this weird story with Scott Mills, the BBC DJ who was fired, basically. Apparently, the BBC acted to sack Radio 2 host Scott Mills last week because it had not previously known the person accusing the DJ of historic sexual abuse had been under 16 at the time. I find this to be quite a weird story. You know, the alleged sexual abuse happened back in about 1997. So we're talking, like, 20 odd years ago. In fact, more than 20, 30 years ago, when he was in his 20s. I'm not minimising that, but the police then looked at it, 10 years ago, back in 2016, 2017, found that there was no case to answer or not enough evidence to prosecute. And yet, the BBC finally finds out about it, like in the last 24 hours, last week, say, and gets rid of the guy. Yeah. And a lot of people saying, well, what's the reason for this? I mean, what has he done wrong exactly?
Well, the interesting thing also is that, while obviously I'm not on the full data on the story, so I can't massively comment, there is something weird about how the BBC always seems to have these kinds of people working for it, though. There's something odd there. Does the BBC just attract a certain kind of person to be a presenter, or someone works there? I really don't know. I mean, obviously, this is not as drastically serious as the Hugh Edwards one is, of course. I mean, that is a really serious case.
No, who was in fact, but he was only suspended at the beginning.
Exactly.
And he was actually being charged by the police.
So here's the thing, maybe they're dealing with this guy in a harsher way because they didn't believe they dealt with Hugh Edwards in the harsh way. But actually, I mean, the BBC did get rid of him, granted. It was more the justice system that didn't do Hugh Edwards, the justice that he deserved, basically, which was him being thrown in prison and the key being thrown away.
No, indeed. But the thing is, the bottom line is that effectively what this story tells you is that if somebody comes up to the BBC 30 years after the event and says, actually, William Yarwood interfered with me 30 years ago, before you were born, presumably. So now we have to get rid of him. And you kind of go, of course, any kind of interference, any kind of, sexual activity with minors is a no-no. Of course it is. But if the police haven't got enough evidence to put a charge together, then, maybe it didn't happen. Yeah. Or, maybe there's no case to answer.
I genuinely think, just to repeat the point, I genuinely think this is because the BBC is so sensitive about the Hugh Edwards thing. They'll have so much flack over it that actually any time something like this comes up, they are just going to just go full whammy and get rid of somebody or purge somebody or reprimand somebody, just so that people like us can say, can't say, why isn't the BBC doing something about that?
Yeah, very true. Big Willie in the house is what it says there. That'll be the new moniker every time you come on. William Yarwood, Taxpayers Alliance, brilliant. Thank you. Good to
Always a pleasure,
see
Mike.
once again. And of course, we've got lots more to do. This is the home of common sense, the real home. Every time I look at this screen, it sends me insane. It's not backwards, right? And I'm going to have to hold a mirror up to it so I can read it. Some of you may remember, we've got Marilyn Halls coming up in a minute, followed by Jamie Jenkins, and also we're going over to the Chagos Islands to talk to Ms. Mandarin, the leader of the Chagos Islands. But before we do any of that, right, yesterday, you might remember, there was a bit of an incident with Edward Hughes, who, as far as I was concerned, blotted his copybook and has been suspended from the Mike Graham show as a result of something that he said on a news bulletin. So he's now been replaced, right, while he's on suspension. And we're investigating, the HR department here is investigating fully whether or not we should reinstate Edward Hughes. But in the meantime, we've got Fiona McLeod with the news.
Good morning. This is your news with me, Fiona McLeod. My uncle Donald put me onto this, so I hope I do okay. I hear the previous guy has been suspended. I'm pretty sure I know what he looks like. He sent me a picture. Anyway, here we go. Hunky Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Britain will pursue closer ties with the EU amid the ongoing Iran war, as relations with the US strain over the UK's refusal to get further involved. Starmer also announced the UK will host talks with 35 countries on securing the Straits of Hormuz amid rising energy concerns and fuel price pressures. He's got our backs. So has the EU. Lovely Rachel Reeves indicated future energy bill support will be targeted by household income, but help may not arrive until autumn. She's a babe. The BBC faces scrutiny after it emerged the corporation knew about a police investigation into sexual offences involving presenter Scott Mills as far back as 2017. He has now been sacked. I think the licence fee is the biggest bargain around. Meanwhile, police are investigating after disorder involving large groups of young people in London, linked to a TikTok trend with parents urged to take responsibility. Go Greens. Remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Fiona McLeod, I think she's a bit of an improvement on, to be honest, a bit of an upgrade there on old Edward Hughes.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Easier on the eye. Well, she sent me pictures. She said, shut up. Stop that. No, she was not allowed to. The point is we've got standards here at the Mike Graham Show. It's not the BBC, you know. You can't just, show pictures of your arse to anyone and carry on reading the news. That's not what's going to go on. So we'll be continuing we'll get an update later on in the show. What's this from Patrick? Awful AI. Just read it yourself. Read it yourself. Well, it would be better if you could actually spell Patrick, to be honest. Awful doesn't have an E in it, right? But thanks for your efforts. My belief is that we should have a newsreader who is responsible, grown up and mature. And I think Fiona McLeod fits all of those bills. So she gets my vote. But of course, it's not up to me. Fiona has set the chat on fire, says Fraser. Yeah, we'll give you an update later on what's going on with old Edward Hughes, who's still in the doghouse, as far as I can tell. We'll let you know about that. Now, you might remember last week we had the world's greatest guest on Plonk of the Week, Marilyn Halls. And she's back. She enjoyed it so much. Marilyn, very good morning to you, darling.
Hello, how are you? Sorry, I'm having a problem with my phone again. You know what I'm like.
You're not going to be crawling around on the floor again, are you, for heaven's sake?
I think I've only just recovered from Plonk of the Week, actually. Yes. The lovely Charlotte. I don't know how I'd have made it back to the station.
Yeah, no, she doesn't know either.
It took me about 3 days to be able to walk again, I think.
I'm sorry about that. But I did warn you not to, neck the stuff, didn't I? I did say, look, you're supposed to taste it and not drink the whole bleeding bottle. But anyway, we'll come back to that in a minute, and we'll play a clip from last week. It was great fun. But let's talk about what I think is a pretty serious problem here, pretty serious story. And this is this exchange between two people on Times Radio, Aisha Hazarika and Stig Abel, who think it's all terribly funny to make a joke about grooming gangs. Have a listen.
There's something for everyone.
I feel that you encourage me in this area.
I'm like an enabler.
Yeah, you are.
I like enable, and then I'm a groomer. Oh my God, just because I'm Muslim, stop it, honestly. Right, okay.
Don't groom me, Aisha.
There'll be an inquiry, judge-led inquiry into me right now. Right, Stig, absolute pleasure as ever. And I'll speak to you next week. That's the brilliant Stig Abel.
It's just, it's so crass, it seems to me, from people who should know better, right?
I couldn't believe it. When I saw it, I had to keep watching it because although I didn't want to watch it, I had to keep watching it to think, you stupid moron. How can you be so far up your backside that you can't step outside of that and think, walk a mile, walk a metre in these girls' shoes. And, I think I need a trigger warning. If she ever shows her face on again, I've never even heard of Times Radio, but what a load of tosh. And, this is so funny. Well, come and work in my world, because the last 6 months I'm still trying to sort out a case that's going on currently in North Shields, I've been warned that I'm coming on today and mentioning them because these are Kurdish gangs that are still wreaking a mock across Wallsend and North Shields. Yeah. And I've been on it for 6 months. I'll talk about that later on. But the whole thing about, I just think it's outrageous. I am going to write to Ofcom because, do they have any control over Times Radio?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, Times Radio basically is an outlet of the Times newspaper, right? It was started up in, I think, 2021 or 22. As a kind of a marketing exercise to try and boost the readership of the Times. And so they employ loads of people who write for the Times, but they also employ people like Aisha Hazarika, who's now a baroness, by the way.
Baroness. On
Yeah,
what
she's a
ground?
baroness. So she sits in the House of Lords, and that's her attitude about, criminal gangs raping white girls on an industrial scale, and she thinks it's like, oh, ha, 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 isn't it funny? I'm a Muslim, call me a groomer. Isn't it funny? It's not funny, and
It's
I'm
not
afraid
funny.
it's absolutely crass and disgusting.
It's completely crass. It's completely inappropriate. It's completely lacking in any understanding whatsoever. And I don't know, because I'm all over this thing at the moment with the sudden, oh, here we are now. We're doing the inquiry's going to start.
Oh, yes.
Oh, really? Right, fine. I mean, I am not normally cynical, but with this and this government and the way they have not dealt with this, frankly, I am absolutely cynical and sceptical. There's a lot of backslapping going on, isn't there? They had some woman, some Labour MP on yesterday, and she was sort of almost like, and she tried to show her face. She was like this on the screen. She could hardly speak English properly. I think some of these Labour MPs need to go to elocution classes.
I know.
She was like, she was a white woman, and she was all this backslapping about, oh yes, we all intended to do blah, blah, blah. No, you never intended to do it, because when you made the vote, it was 364 of you morons against having the inquiry, and 111 for it. So don't tell me that you wanted the inquiry, you didn't. And do you know what, Mike? I think it's only been started now and kicked into onto the field, because Robbie Moore's just done such a good job at unraveling the fact that nothing happened when Baroness Casey told all the police forces, all the authorities, no documents should be destroyed. And now, 7 months on, no one had done anything. Well, good. Shout out for Robbie Moore, MP. Well done, you, pal. But, it is. I was listening to Tom Swarbrick yesterday. He did a thing on LBC. And this Aisha should get her ass down there and have a listen. He had tapes of these girls screaming, please don't rape me, please don't rape me. Oh, that's really funny. Aisha, that's very funny. Have a laugh at that.
That's really funny. Yeah. Did you see as well Jess Phillips the other day? She was on Newsnight, I think, and she was asked about, do you think it's right that some Labour MPs and others in the government and in responsible positions covered all this up? And she's like, oh yes, it's definitely terrible thing. And what about you? Did you do that? Oh no, I didn't do that. No, I've always been very clear about, no, she hasn't. This woman has been an obstruction to the prosecution of gangs, not least because in the West Midlands, where she has a constituency, she's terribly scared, petrified of losing her job to Islamists.
I mean, it's outrageous. How she can sit there? I think when this was in discussion, I think I remember her sitting there on the benches, smiling and laughing into her phone about something. She wasn't even listening to what was being said. I have this thing about this inquiry, you see. Yeah. It's all very well and good. It's like everything else. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Right, okay, well, let's start with the usual suspects. And without fear or favour, everybody, ethnicity, whatever their position in the police or the councils, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now let's start with the big hitters, shall we? Let's see, because this is where it should start with. What about Sadiq Khan and his 9,000 cases he didn't know were going on?
Oh, yeah.
Hand in hand with him, I would say, from the police department, let's look at Sir Mark Rowley, shall we? And not forgetting that incredibly attractive woman called Cressida Dick.
Yes.
I mean, she got the right surname, hasn't she?
Yeah, she has.
And then there's another guy, I can't stand, Andy Burnham. Yeah. Now, you've got the GMP, Greater Manchester Police, huge offenders with this, huge cover-ups with Rochdale and all of that. Then you've got the Metropolitan Police down there. And then you have, of course, Jess Phillips. All of those people need to be immediately investigated. Now, are they going to be, or are they so slippery, slimy, they're going to come out from underneath it? All of those need investigation without fear or favour. They need to be first on the hit list. And then you've got, you see, maybe it doesn't happen this way, but all reports and documents should be logged, shouldn't they?
Of course.
So, I mean, yeah.
Well,
exactly.
Nobody knows where half of these complaints have actually gone. Nobody knows how many complaints were made. There is no paper trail, it seems to me.
Well-
because it's all been kind of lost in the mists of time, hasn't it?
Well, this is it. I mean, were they logged? That's the point.
Yeah.
And why weren't they logged? Well, that would be the boys in blue deciding that they're not going to,
Yeah.
especially if it's one of their own that's
Well,
being
quite.
involved, which they were. They
Yeah.
were in Rotherham. And they are. You're going to get dodgy coppers. You get dodgy people in any organisation. It happens. Look at the BBC. I'd rather not, but there we go. But you know, it's the Greater Manchester Police and the whole of the Met. A terrible reputation for the way they run their business. But currently, there's this IOPC thing going on. That, you know, with the Northumbria police, because of what's been going on with North Tyneside and is still going on.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me. It's like, oh, look, a clever old us. We're now going to do this inquiry. It's going to take 3 years. How many people, as we speak now, are waking up in some hellhole where they've had 20 men rape them last night? Yeah? They just don't stop and think that this is still going on. What is going to stop it? There's another whole generation of these Pakistani creeps coming up through the ranks. You know, they don't even stop and think about this. And then some of these, you know, this whole conversation worries me about the girls and the boys, because currently up in North Shields, I had a conversation with a couple of the Uber drivers who have done a magnificent job on trying to bring this to light into the eyes of their counsellors. You know, they have seen young boys, and I mean young boys, going into some of these places, you know, 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds going in, and nothing's happened. I have written to the police again of the Serious Crime Squad. I've written to them again, and I got a letter back going, oh, I know you think we're not doing anything. No, I actually know you're not.
I know you're not doing anything. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Don't insult me. I know you're not doing anything because you basically don't want to. I've been working on this for 6 months. The Uber drivers have been doing it a year before that. You should see the report they got from the IOPC, and that is just one little place in England where it is endemic. It's more than a stain on this country. It's a rank embarrassment. It really is outrageous. And you know, I mean, Nelson Mandela, he actually said a country will be judged on how they treat their children, and we suck. No, in 23 years of doing this job, no government has ever got this right. I mean, these gangs have been going on for 30 years across Britain, and it's always been like, you know, it's honestly, Mike, it really, really upsets me because one of the girls is taxi drives. One of the girls went missing, right? And she is 19, and she was in a you know, came out of a care home at 16. And of course, this is the other thing that's so wrong. They're suddenly left to their own devices, and they have to get on with life. What? Anyway, she was made pregnant by one of these gits, and she was in hospital for 3 weeks, and she was really ill after having this miscarriage. Anyway, the Uber drivers were trying to track her. They couldn't get her on the phones, so her phone had been taken away. She had been picked up from the hospital by these gang members and then taken straight to Leeds, where she was trafficked all over Leeds. This is only 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, and then she came, and now where is she? So they're trying to find her, but they know she's back. You know, but this is just one person out of the 250,000 that we know about.
It's
and
absolutely shocking.
They will kill. When kids go missing, these are barbaric. It is beyond. I mean,
we don't even know, do we? I mean, so many kids go missing every single year, thousands of them, right? How many of them are being murdered and buried by these scumbags? You know, we don't even know.
No, you don't know. You don't know. And I remember once it's years ago now, and it was actually. It was years ago. It was before Maddie McCann thing, and I was doing some work with some police officers, and we were on our way somewhere, and I was going to do a training course. And this officer, he says to me, "You know, if you really want to get rid of someone, you feed them to the pigs." What? And he said, "Yeah, we investigated a pig farmer in Guildford, and we could never prove that he'd murdered his wife because pigs eat absolutely everything with no forensic evidence afterwards, right? And you don't know if if that's happened, you don't. Well, of course they won't. Well, they're Muslim because it would be pigs, so they wouldn't go there, would they? But you know, there are ways of getting rid of people because some of these girls, have been threatened up in Wallsend that if they say anything to anyone whatsoever, so they're very brave talking to these Uber drivers, that they will end up in the River Tyne.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely shocking. Listen, Marilyn, great to talk to you. We were going to play a little clip from Punk of the Week. I don't know whether we can. Should we do that before we go, or are we in a bit of a hurry, Booch? We're in a bit of a hurry, aren't we? We got Misley Mandarin waiting in the Chagos Islands to talk to, so we're going to rush off and talk to him. But listen, brilliant to see you, and great to see you last week, and we'll see you back for Plonk of the Week soon. And also, we'll see you for the live show, May the 6th in Shepherd's Bush.
I'll be there.
Shepherd's Bush
I will be wearing
Empire.
my tiara.
Yeah, she's going to bring her tiara, and she'll have her drinking boots on as well, hopefully.
Oh,
and,
I will.
Make sure you book a hotel relatively close to the venue.
I've already warned Charlotte.
Yeah, make sure you book a hotel relatively close to the venue so you can make a crawl home.
Have a good one. Thanks,
all right,
everyone.
Marilyn,
Bye,
great
bye.
to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Bye,
Marilyn Halls there, fantastic campaigner on behalf of the victims of grooming gangs up and down the country, and currently working on one from Kurds up in Wallsend. In the northeast of this country, just on the outskirts of Newcastle, actually, it's part of Newcastle. Coming up, Jamie Jenkins joins us. Connie Shaw's going to be here, Ellie Hodges as well. Also, we're going to talk to David Turver about the state of play vis-a-vis the economy and net zero and all the rest of it. But right now, though, we're going to go over to the Chagos Islands, I'm delighted to say, where Misley Mandarin, the leader of the Chagos Islands, is waiting for us. Misley, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. For us, it's afternoon. It's 1 o'clock here. Good morning, Graham, and to you, and thank you for having me on your show.
No, not at all. Listen, the sky looks nice there. It looks like we've got decent weather. A big week for you this week because it was ruled here in the UK that, in fact, you have the right not only to remain on Chagos, but the right to live there, right?
Yeah, it was. The battle is not over yet because we have to remember we still got the surrender treaty is still hanging over us. It still need to ratify.
Right.
So this judgment we had a couple of days ago will kick the government plan to oblivious because it's proved that Chagosian are allowed to stay and settle in their homeland.
Yes. And why shouldn't you be allowed? Why should you have to make a special case, right? I mean, everybody in the world has the right to live in their own land, right? Why should you have to go through this legal process to get permission, if you like, from the British government to remain in the place where you belong?
Yeah, because the thing I don't understand with especially Labour government back then and now, because you have to remember in the 60s and 70s, under Harold Wilson, Labour government removed the Chagosians. And now, Labour government again, under Keir Starmer, want to give our homeland, British territory, to a third country like Mauritius. And how it is hypocritical from the Labour government when they said about Greenland, those people have self-determination. The government want to give them self-determination, which is very far away from us. But their own British subject, their own British territory, we are not allowed it.
Yeah.
And I really think this Labour government, they are bonkers.
They really are. But it looks to me as though, and we were talking to somebody yesterday about from the British Overseas Territories Organisation, who basically was hopefully, Robert Midgley was his name, hoping that this whole business goes away, because I think in order for it to be voted back in, it has to be presented to the House of Lords within the next month or something like that. And the belief is that won't happen because the government is kind of now accepted that they're on a losing wicket and they're not going to be able to get it through. So are you hopeful that that's what's going to happen?
Yes, and the thing you have to remember, Graham, as well, our position, why I'm here, is not only for British Chagosian, is for the whole United Kingdom. By us being here, we are protecting national security of the UK.
Yeah.
And in the same way as well, we're doing the relationship which are broken between the US and the UK right now under Starmer.
Yeah.
So by us being here and want the island to stay British, right? It helped to mend the relationship between the US and the UK.
Yeah.
And security was global security. So this is one of our main thing. We are here on the island, and with all these things happening in the Serene Deal, every single week something showing up, which is borderline like corruption.
Yeah.
And this gonna make it very, very, very and impossible for the government to rectify and give the island to Mauritius, which is good news for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are things there right now? The weather, as I say, looks quite nice, and your dwelling situation is not great, is it? I mean, you're living kind of in the open air, if you like, right? What, have you got hopes that you can start building there and start actually, creating a proper town, proper community, something like that?
So, Graham, one thing, your listeners have to understand. Even we live in, like you said, on Planet Hill, we actually live in a tent.
Yeah.
But it's ours. You can't take this from us. This is ours. This is our fight. Even we have to live here for months and years. And we know that's the British and Chagosian have the right to be here. This is our homeland.
Yeah.
But concerning resettlement, definitely it will happen. So we got donors, we got GoFund as well. If your listeners want to fund us, go on the BioCitizen Facebook page. You will see the link and fund us. And we got charities. For example, we are Christian. We got Christian Aid. Would like to help us to build a church. We got people from the UK as well approach us, like doing solar panel for electricity. They want to help us free of charge. We got a lot of British people want to help. So yes, we're very confident. Resettlement is very, very soon.
Yeah, good. We want to put that link out to people here who are watching the show. Can you just give us that again?
Yeah, it will be on BioCitizen Facebook, and the link is a GoFundMe will support the resettlement of Chagosian back to British territory, which is Chagos Island.
Okay, fantastic. And I mean, are you hoping or are you waiting to hear from anybody in Parliament here at this end? I mean, who are you working with that we can also mention?
So we've been working. We got a very good network of campaigners, lords, MPs who are dedicated, and special thanks for friends of British overseas territory as well, who did a great job. They actually did a report as well for resettlement. So even though if the government don't want to fund us, we're gonna fight to get funding from private, from the British public, and this is gonna happen. So we got a very good network, and if anything happen in the Parliament, we will know, and we're gonna go forward from there.
Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Ms. Mandarin, great to talk to you. Good to see you in such fine form. You're looking healthy, wealthy, looking like you're enjoying yourself. It's great. You look as if we're on the final victory lap, it seems to me, and you have our support, obviously, as well. I think we're going to put the link out there for people to help you as well as soon as we can. So, so thank you very much. There it is there, facebook.com/biot.citizens. So you can donate to Misley Mandarin and his cause. Misley, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a lovely
Thank
afternoon.
you for having me.
And enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Looks lovely there.
Thank you.
People are saying, the Mike Graham Show should go to Chagos. Yeah, we're in the process of trying to. Robert Midgley was in yesterday, and we said to him, do you think we could maybe do a show from Chagos Islands? And he is going to try and make that happen. He's going to try and accommodate us on that one. Pooch, if you and Mike do a show, that's just disappeared. Did you see yesterday, by the way, somebody went, can you leave the messages up a bit longer, Pooch, because they can't read them. If you and Mike do a show from there, I'll come. I'm good at fishing, says John. Yeah, apparently there's loads of fish there if the European Union doesn't suck them all out of the sea. Because apparently the European Union, ghastly organisation that it is, are trying to actually manoeuvre themselves and muscle in to the shores off the Chagos Islands, which apparently are very rich in all sorts of biodiversity and fish and all the rest of it. But they want to do that horrible kind of trawling that they do in those big trawling ships where they literally pick everything out of the sea, kill half of it and chuck the dead bits back and sort of take all the tuna out. Who the hell gives away an island and pays them to do so? Crazy, says Gary. Well, yeah. I mean, everybody knows that the whole point of the Chagos Islands deal was purely and simply to satisfy the bizarre and kind of twisted logic of the Human Rights Brigade. People like Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, people like Jonathan Powell, the former advisor to Tony Blair, who now is cozying up to the Chinese, by the way, in terms of trying to give away as much British territory as possible. Also, the likes of Keir Starmer, David Lammy, who want to pay reparations to people, except the Chagosians, who they don't want to not only not pay reparations to, but they don't even want them to be able to live in their own homeland. But the rule of law has said, and only this week, basically, that the Chagosians have the right to live on the Chagos Islands. They have the right to self-determination. They have the right to maintain a lifestyle on the islands that they belong to. And so, as far as I'm concerned, it's yet another piece of legislation that is dead in the water that Keir Starmer has managed to kill off because he's so bleeding useless, right? Now, coming up, Jamie Jenkins is going to be with us very shortly. Also, we've got loads of other fantastic guests to talk to, including Ellie Hodges and Connie Shaw from the Free Speech Union as well. Right now, though, as you may have heard, if you've only just joined us, Edward Hughes has been suspended. So he's not reading the news at the moment because of something he said yesterday, which I personally took exception to, which I complained to the HR department about, for which he has been taken off the air. More seriously, Aisha Hazarika, who works for Times Radio and is a baroness, and Stig Abel, who also works for Times Radio, have been caught out having a laugh and a joke about Muslim grooming gangs, right? And the absolutely ghastly, awful scenario of young white girls being raped while they are simply not even women yet, right? They thought it was funny. They thought they would have a laugh about it. I'm saying Ofcom needs to take a step and get rid of both of them, or at least put them on suspension for a while. Right now, though, here's the news with Fiona McLeod.
Good morning. This is your news with me, Fiona McLeod. My uncle Donald put me onto this, so I hope I do okay. I hear the previous guy has been suspended. I'm pretty sure I know what he looks like. He sent me a picture. Anyway, here we go. Hunky Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Britain will pursue closer ties with the EU amid the ongoing Iran war, as relations with the US strain over the UK's refusal to get further involved. Starmer also announced the UK will host talks with 35 countries on securing the Straits of Hormuz amid rising energy concerns and fuel price pressures. He's got our backs. So has the EU. Lovely Rachel Reeves indicated future energy bill support will be targeted by household income, but help may not arrive until autumn. She's a babe. The BBC faces scrutiny after it emerged the corporation knew about a police investigation into sexual offences involving presenter Scott Mills as far back as 2017. He has now been sacked. I think the licence fee is the biggest bargain around. Meanwhile, police are investigating after disorder involving large groups of young people in London, linked to a TikTok trend with parents urged to take responsibility. Go Greens. Remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Fiona McLeod, goodness me. I think she's a step up, to be honest, from old Edward Hughes. You know, maybe he's now on the Redondo ladder, on the slide. You know, Pooch is a great supporter of Edward Hughes, but there's a bit of a... Edward Hughes is innocent, says Barbara. I don't think he is. I'm sorry. I just don't think he is. I mean, I don't know if we've got it. Have we got it? The clip from yesterday? Let's play it, right? Because here's the proof that he needed to be taken off the air, right? Because we...
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes with your news. Keir Starmer is boldly declaring that of cheese vanishing like magic, while the economy wobbles under potential Trump tariffs and downgraded growth forecasts. And in shock news, Hugh Edwards has been announced as the new presenter of Radio 2's breakfast show. He said, "It's going to be called Hugh's Daily Download. Viewers can send in song suggestions, and I'll send them pictures of my rear end. Stay sunny, Britain. At least the bin, strikes and stolen cheese give us something to..."
No, you see, he's talking about sending pictures of his rear end. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. And also, by the way, you may have noticed that it was a spoof news story as well, which is another reason why he's been removed, because he's not in the business, supposedly, of humour. He's not in the business of making stuff up. He's busy there telling us that Hugh Edwards has been offered the new job of Scott Mills's show on Radio 2, which is plainly not true.
Good evening. Here's your news with me, Edward Hughes.
What's this?
And, as you may have heard, I've been suspended from the Mike Graham show. I've been the regular news anchor there, so I can't say that it doesn't hurt. It's gone to HR, and I'm awaiting a tribunal outcome. Back to the news. And everyone's pretending it's fine. Happy Wednesday, Britain. Back to Richie and Rogue. Laters, Tigers.
Richie and Rogue? Why? How is he doing? How is he moonlighting for Richie and Rogue? That's not right. He's treading a very, very thin line, this guy. I'll tell you what, because when you're put on gardening leave, that means you don't work for anybody. You can't just go off and do news for anybody else. Richard Taylor, who's from Richie and Rogue, can we get him on? Is he? All right, so we've got him coming on, so he can explain himself to me, because I'm sorry, you can't just employ Edward Hughes when he's on suspension. He's on suspension. That means he's not supposed to work anywhere. He's under contract here at the Mike Graham show. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. It's the rule of law just gone out the window. What's going on? If I say somebody's banned and they have to go and sit in the the cool room, cooling off period, like the penalty box in hockey, that's where they sit. They don't go. You can't go and suddenly go. For Hugh Edwards, right? When he gets suspended by the BBC, he didn't suddenly pop up on ITV, did he? Reading the news, right? Mike Graham show sinks to DEI hiring. Bring back Edward Hughes. I don't think it's DEI hiring to bring a rather nice-looking Scottish woman in. No, it's not. Nothing to do with that. Oh, she's not related to Donald MacLeod, is she? She's his niece. Yeah. Aye. This gets darker and darker, doesn't it? I mean, all we want to do here is run a reasonably good show, right? And already we're being infected by nepotism, onanism, bloody criminality. It's not easy out there. It's just like the BBC. Anyway, listen, we'll get to the bottom of it, but we'll talk to Richard Taylor coming up a little bit later on the show and find out what the hell he thinks he's doing, nicking old Edward Hughes from us, who's supposed to be on gardening leave, not supposed to be working. He's on suspension, man. Anyway, listen, Jamie Jenkins is here from Welsh Wales. Let's find out what he's got for us. Jamie, very good morning to you, sir.
Hi, Mike. Solidarity with the Welsh, Mike. I think we need to free Edward Hughes. Get him back in now. Come on, solidarity with him.
Yeah, well, it's all very well for you to say that, but, people say things, these things have consequences, I mean, look at the Times Radio lot. They're suddenly making jokes about grooming gangs, I wonder if anybody's going to punish them for that, I'd like to see Ofcom stepping in and taking Aisha Hazarika and Stig Abel out for a good spanking.
No, I think you're right there, Mike. And I was thinking as well, what I might do today is a Peter Kyle impression, because for the next half an hour, Mike, or 20 minutes I'm speaking to you, I'm going to sadly say I don't know any numbers. What an absolute joke when he was on with Nick Ferrari yesterday.
I mean, I was saying this to somebody yesterday, right? I went to the gym and had a drink with somebody afterwards. And we were saying, if you're a government minister and you are, or you've got a special advisor as you're, as you're about to go into Nick Ferrari's show, surely at some point somebody would say to you, what question do you think he might ask? Like, for example, if you're John Healey, the Defence Secretary, do you think he might ask us how many ships we've got? He wasn't prepared for that. Peter Kyle, do you think he might ask you how many people are unemployed? Oh, no, I don't think we were prepared for that. I find it incredible,
Yeah, no, Mike, and that's sadly the competence that we've got in this government. And I stayed up late last night watching that rocket go off to the moon. I was hoping Starmer and Reeves were on it, Mike, and I was sadly disappointed when I checked and they weren't actually on the rocket itself. But
the other clue about the rocket itself is that it's clearly not manufactured in Britain, because if it was, it wouldn't have made it off the ground, would it?
No, we couldn't afford to power the rocket to get it up there, Mike, with the cost
Can
of
we not put a
energy.
few migrants on it? Send them
Well,
up to the moon.
Well, that might be the quickest way of sorting out this backlog that we've got, Mike. But yeah, from the
wow.
biggest news this week, I think that you've played a clip early on as well, didn't you, about Rachel Reeves talking about the weather and the fact that we got into summer, so our energy bills won't be as high. And so, yeah, right, it's freezing out there at the moment. I was out yesterday, absolutely freezing. But at the forecourts, Mike, I wrote about this. I think we discussed it last week, but petrol's continuing to go up. It's now, I think, on unleaded's up 21 pence since the start of the conflict. Now, diesel's up 42 pence, huge amounts. And the Treasury's getting an extra 43 million quid a week in tax from this now. And if you kind of basically put that up into how would that affect the annual figure, you're getting close to over 2 billion quid, Mike. And I tell you what, I don't know if you've got any clips from yesterday, Mike, but that Keir Starmer press conference, he did, literally one of the most useless press conferences I've ever seen from a prime minister. He literally stood up, did a press conference, said nothing, just saying, we're monitoring the situation. Literally, this is the guy in charge of the country. What was that all about?
I know. Well, because we've seen other countries, like I think Croatia's one, Australia's certainly another, where they've taken action and said, look, we're going to immediately drop the tax on fuel because we know, and you know, of course, that something like 51 to 52% of every litre of petrol sold in this country goes to the government in tax. So they could easily, I mean, he had them all in, and there was a great video actually, which we haven't played yet, but which I saw yesterday, of all of those heads of the various fuel companies just sitting in Downing Street, looking miserable as hell. It's like, listening to Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer saying, well, we can't do it alone. Well, actually, you can do it alone. You could, if you wanted to, get rid of VAT. You could, if you wanted to, reduce the fuel tax by 10% or something. At least it would be something other than nothing, which at the moment is exactly what they're doing. I mean, I put some petrol in the car yesterday, the day before. I think it was 151.9 or something like that for just regular unleaded petrol. But diesel is up around about 180, 185, you know. And the government making a profit out of that is disgraceful as far as I can tell.
Yeah, because remember, every time, say, petrol goes up 10 pence, so that the figure you put in yesterday, Mike, if you go back to fill up today, it'd probably be higher. So every time the petrol or diesel prices are up 10 pence, basically 20% of that is the VAT that the government gets on top. So the fuel duty stays the same, but they get that on top. So they could put a temporary kind of pause on the amount of kind of the VAT. They could discount that off the fuel duty. And the thing is, Mike, as well, so this is a double hit to motorists. So what you tend to find is that there's much more demand, and that's why the petrol is going up less than the diesel overall, because just remember, when people deliver you goods across the country and you've got all these lorries across the country, well, haulages, businesses, their fuel bills are going up massive amounts. And what does that mean? Prices will go up. So when you go to the supermarkets or you go to the shops, so even though you're paying for your own petrol tank for the consumer, when it comes to buying goods, then we'll see an inflationary pressure because of all of this. So the government can reduce that pressure by reducing the VAT or putting a temporary cut. And all Starmer was saying, wasn't he? He said, oh, well, we've temporarily kept the fuel 5 pence cut until September. We're monitoring the situation. You know, this government needs to, get on with things, Mike. We don't want to hear sound. Other countries are doing it. You know, the consumer needs some help at the pumps. And what are they doing? Nothing at all.
I saw a Labour MP yesterday making this argument, right, which is the most bizarre argument I think I've ever heard, which was that, well, it's one thing to say that the government's raking in loads of money on VAT and fuel duty because of the expensive cost of energy now. However, don't worry, because people are not spending money in other places because they're cutting back, because they haven't got money to spend. So actually our tax receipts are down. And you're kind of going, what, is that your kind of current theory then? You're actually saying that because people haven't got any money, you're not collecting as much tax, so it's okay to collect double the tax on petrol.
But therein lies the problem, Mike, with this kind of government overall, because they've taxed us so much. And Starmer again was talking about, wasn't he? He brought out that figure again. No, we've reduced energy bills today by £100. I think it was £117. The off-gem price cap comes out. But the average worker, Mike, and we discussed this a couple of months ago. So digged into the numbers. The average worker since Labour come in are paying £888 more in income tax and national insurance. And the fallacy of this government is that basically they've taken more and more tax off us, which is right. So people have got less money to go and spend, But that's why when I speak with you every month then about the economic growth figures, that we're going backwards on a per person basis. We had no growth in January because, if you keep taxing people, you get no growth. And if you get no growth, you get fewer tax receipts. And the country's going absolutely nowhere. And that's the fallacy of this government, is they don't understand basic economic theory, put money in people's pockets, they spend it, it creates jobs. We're going backwards, going in the other direction. And your example there from the Labour kind of MP there, Mike, is exactly the problem we've got. You've got people on the front bench who haven't worked in business. You've got people on the back bench who haven't got a clue. And these are the people ultimately running this country into the ground.
Yeah. And we still keep getting told, don't worry, we're putting more money in your pocket. And you're saving money in April because we're reducing your energy bill. And people are going, sorry, what are you talking about? You know, nobody that I know and nobody that I don't know is saying that they're better off at the moment, because they're not.
Yeah, on average, Mike, people aren't better off. You say we've got fiscal drag is going to be happening for the next 4 or 5 years. So people don't understand, what does that mean? Basically, they've frozen the rates at which you pay your income taxes. So as your wages go up, the government just takes a little bit more of that money, and that's boosting the Treasury's coffers. And what did we have yesterday? I think the minimum wage has gone up, Mike. It's going up for younger people as well. You know, people do need an increase, a pay increase. They do need those things. But especially at the bottom end and for the younger people, that will add to the cost of business. So if people, as you say, aren't going out spending money in hospitality, they'll be thinking, I actually can't afford to pay all this extra money to my kind of employee. So they'll cut back on jobs. And then what happens? You cut back on jobs, you have to pay more out in benefits. And there's this vicious circle of what brings you back into a recession. And then the other news we had this week as well, Mike, isn't it? This deal with France. So we spent 476 million quid to France to stop the boats over the last 3 years. That ran out midnight, I think, a couple of days ago.
It ran out, it was the last day of March it ran out. So it ran out like 2 nights ago.
Yeah, so we've just chucked them over. We haven't had a chance to renegotiate this dodgy deal, which is a complete waste of money anyway. So they've chucked them another 16 million for 2 months.
Right.
Kick it down the can. We've had over 4,000 people coming over. So Reeves talks about the weather, Mike. It's only the weather that stops the boats. You know, when was the last time you heard Starmer, Mike, say we're smashing the gangs?
Yeah. Well, do you know what? This will make you laugh, because I happened to see it the other day and I retweeted it because I think they put it out without checking with Downing Street. But I think it was the Ashford branch of the Labour Party put out, we've stopped the boats, we've smashed the gangs, we haven't seen any migrants coming across the channel for a week. And then they showed that Home Office chart, you know, where it goes 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, which we all know is everything to do with the wind and the tide and nothing to do with, you know, stopping the boats. They don't come when it's difficult for them to come because the tide's against them. And of course, as of yesterday, they started coming again.
Yeah, well, 4,441 we've had in the figures to date. So if we've stopped the boats and we've smashed the gang, maybe they should have showed a graphic, not showing just the last 7 days, but the full figures for the year, Mike. And they're continuing to go up. And the country's just in an absolute mess. And there's a story in Wales as well, Mike, which some people over the border might not have picked up on this. So we've got new graduates, Mike, paramedics, obviously. Right. We've been putting bursaries in for these people as well. So taxpayers' money has been supporting some of these people through universities. And they've been told in Wales, these new graduates who are going to come out as paramedics, to apply for jobs abroad. Literally, there's no jobs here. The ambulance services said, we've got difficult financial and operational landscapes. So we're paying all this money to help train them up. And we've got this NHS crisis that if you phone for an ambulance, you can't get one. And now they're saying, go and apply for a job abroad. That's the state this country's got in, Mike, that you literally, these are the people that should be the top of the queue, rather than spending money on these kind of DEI diversity roles in the NHS. They don't save your life. You want these paramedics up the front line, Mike. And I imagine this has been multiplied. This is in Wales. I would assume this is going on across the rest of the country as well. You know, we need these healthcare workers. And you're telling people there's no jobs for you, Mike. This is at the shambles. And the Welsh government, you know, the Labour government in Wales, been running the NHS for 27 years. They're going to get booted out in a few weeks' time, Mike, with the Welsh Parliament elections coming in. But that's the sheer state of this country, that people who come to university to do jobs that will save lives are then told, go and apply for a job in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, because we haven't got any for you. You know, what's the foresight in all of that?
Yeah, I know. And finally, one for you, which I don't know whether you've spotted, it's in the Times today, page 4. Education editor Nicola Woodcock reports that more than £15 million worth of compensation has been paid to teachers in the last year, right? because they've all had to lose their jobs or leave their jobs, including those who have lost their job because of the contraction of an infection. Seeing rats in rat-infested schools. Basically, this is the National Education Union's annual conference in Brighton. One teacher was pushed to the floor and kicked 14 times. Children are being assaulted by classmates. Schools don't have enough staff or resources to intervene. I mean, it's complete shambles. And, you know, again, the cost to the nation is 15 million quid.
Yeah, it's another one of those examples, Mike, where the cost is always put onto the taxpayer, and the education system's in a hell of a mess as well. You're right.
Yeah.
We focused on discipline, focused on frontline kind of education, frontline NHS. That's exactly what we need, Mike, and it's an absolute shambles. So yeah, more doom and gloom, Mike. We'll continue to call all of this out. People can get over to my Substack. I think it's on the screen there. Statsjamie.co.uk. Just Google Stats Jamie, Mike. You can pick it all up. And I say the only good growth figures, Mike, I'll give you a plug as well, is I was just looking at your YouTube numbers. I think you're nearly up to 150,000 subscribers as well, Mike. So
13 million views we're going. In fact, we're already on 13. We're getting up to 13 and a half already, so we could be 14 by the end of the week, which would be great.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And all thanks to people like yourself, Stats Jamie. Jamie, who've been with us from the beginning, showed faith in us from the start, which we're very grateful for. So when we have the summer party, you better get yourself up to London.
Mike,
Pooch has got a plan.
Mike, definitely up for that.
Fantastic. Good to see you. Jamie Jenkins, thank you very much indeed. Great story here, by the way, Pooch. How about this, right? Cranes had a record breeding season last year. Well, because Donald McLeod. Yeah, this is a Donald McLeod story, right? 87 breeding pairs have raised 37 chicks, according to the RSPB. The charity estimates that the total population now stands at 250 in a reversal of fortune for a species formerly hunted to extinction in Britain. So cranes are in business, and there's one over there, that blue one, right? That's the crane, isn't it? And it says that they're monogamous for life, unlike Donald. Sorry. I hope Edward Hughes isn't going to get a full Mike Graham show pension. No, not the way he's going. Says John's asking that question. He's not going to get that, particularly if he's moonlighting for bloody Richie and Rogue. That's not happening. We're going to find out more about the situation with Edward Hughes because I'm not happy about it, to be honest. You know, when you get told you're on gardening leave, you better be on gardening leave. That means you stay in the garden. You don't go broadcasting somewhere else. You know, Edward Hughes, you're not any different from Hugh Edwards. You don't get to go. Hugh Edwards didn't go off to Channel 5. I fancy doing Channel 5 news while I'm being under investigation. No, you can't do that. Sorry, it's not happening. Anyway, listen. We've got lots going on. Please do like and subscribe the channel, by the way. And also, don't forget, coming up at 9:30, we'll be switching you over to UK Live, which is our new channel, our sister channel, where we're going to be migrating all of you. I know that's a bit of a media-type word. We're going to migrate all of you. When the Mike Graham Show finishes very soon, at 9:30, we're going to migrate you all over to UK Live. And if you can't find it on YouTube, please look for UK Live online, because apparently if you search for UK Live, you don't get it. And we will try and fix that as well, because that's one of those things that we can try and fix. Right now, though, we are about to talk to our next guest, and we're going to talk about net zero and the cost of everything and the cost of fuel, the cost of energy, and all the rest of it with David Turver. David, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. Nice to see you.
Very good to see you. I don't know quite how to start the conversation, but all I can say is that it's not looking very good, is it?
No, it's a bit of a shambles, I think, really.
A shambles is right.
So, it is difficult to know where to start, but perhaps we could start with Ed Miliband sitting on the approval of 2 oil and gas fields in the North Sea, Jackdaw and Rosebank, which were formally approved, and then they got unapproved because they hadn't followed the strict rules on environmental impact assessments and worked out how much carbon dioxide will be emitted when the fuel that they extract are burnt. And Ed Miliband's sitting on them, which is fuel that we need, whilst the Strait of Hormuz is all but closed. And there's a sort of like a global shortage of oil and gas. It's absolutely crazy.
It is mad. We've got a little clip, actually. Let's have a look at Miliband talking yesterday, I think it was, about fossil fuels.
The central mission of this government is to get off this roller coaster of fossil fuels, which again is doing damage to our country, did a lot of damage, massive damage, after Russia invaded Ukraine, with clean, homegrown energy that we control. Wind, solar, nuclear. That is why we put an end to this cycle of the British people, British businesses paying the price. And in the meantime, we will fight people's corner through this crisis. We will stand by people's side. We won't leave people alone.
I mean, he talks about standing by people's side, but despite what noises they make about how, oh, in April, prices of energy are going to come down, I don't know anyone who's telling me that the price of their bills is coming down. Do you?
Well, the price cap is going to come down slightly, but the way they've done it...
The price has already gone up, though, so it sort of cancels it out, doesn't it?
Yes. But the way they've done it is a sleight of hand. So the way I put it last night is essentially they're robbing Peter's pay packet to pay Paul's energy bill.
Right.
So most of what they've done is move what's called the renewable obligation subsidies off bills into general taxation, which isn't a saving at all. It's just moving money from one pocket to another.
Right.
A much more radical solution would be to abolish them altogether. I mean, I get very tired of him talking about this fossil fuel roller coaster. The real roller coaster is the generation profile of wind and solar, which of course follows the weather. So, when it's sunny, we get some solar, and when it's windy, we get some wind, and when it's neither, we don't get anything.
Right.
And that is the real roller coaster. And not only are these technologies very expensive, they impose extra costs all across the rest of the grid, because everyone else has to cope with the vagaries of the weather.
Well, that's right. And I was talking
to
I was talking to Ralph Schulhammer yesterday over in Europe, where he was saying that an awful lot of European countries now, particularly Germany, particularly Italy and others, are going back to coal because they think that coal is actually the future now, because it's, one, easy to get out of the ground, and two, they don't really care anymore about the carbon footprint. They just want to make sure that people can heat their homes and they can create energy.
Well, yes, and they're not alone. There's quite a lot of countries across Asia who are ramping up their coal as well, because they can't get gas. It's interesting. I'm the co-author of a paper that was published this morning, in fact, from a new think tank, the Great British Business Council, and we've done a whole section there on coal. And on my Substack, I'll do a piece on Sunday looking at why I think going back to coal is actually inevitable, because we cannot run a first world economy on sunbeams and zephyrs. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
And the thing about coal, for those people who don't know about it, because it's sort of very much a thing of the past, I suppose, if you like. I mean, I moved into a house in Wiltshire back in the kind of, I guess, late 90s, and bizarrely opened up the sort of door to the back garden, and there was a coal scuttle, and there was all this coal, and I thought, wow, it's coal, and we had a fireplace, and I've never seen anything like it, because I mean, yes, when I was a kid, and I don't remember it very well, my parents used to have a fireplace and we used to burn coal, but this stuff was amazing. You put it in the fireplace, and not only would it burn forever, it was so warm, and it heated the house so well. And the idea that you're not supposed to use it, to me, is complete madness. You're only supposed to use, charcoal briquettes to have a barbecue. If we actually were sensible, we'd be burning coal every single winter because it's so energy efficient.
Yes, and the fact of the matter is we've got hundreds of millions, if not billions, of tons of coal resources in the country. And if Miliband really wants to talk about energy security and energy that we control and we rely on, well, it's under our feet. And electricity that comes from coal is very cheap. Now, previously, the objections to coal, which I sort of agree with, have been the emissions, not so much the CO2 in my mind, but particulates and what's called SOx and NOx. But generally speaking, coal has fewer emissions than burning trees at Drax, which he seems very happy to do. And the newer coal power stations, what's called super critical and ultra super critical, they're very clean and they scrub out a lot of almost all of the particulates and almost all of the SOx and NOx. So the objections have sort of fallen away, and our what's called firm power capacity is sort of like dropping each year as our gas-fired power stations age, and there's an 8-year lead time on new ones. So,
Right.
at some point in the next year or two, we're not going to have enough firm power to meet demand.
No, indeed. And finally, David, you wrote a tweet on top of Ed Conway's tweet yesterday from Sky about closer ties to the European Union, in which you said, which I rather like, this is the equivalent of Starmer reattaching the lifeboats to the Titanic, which is a great sort of image in my head, because it is. That's kind of, it sort of defines Labour's governing style, doesn't it? Because kind of what they're doing on every level is, but you're worried that if we do have closer alignment to the EU, energy-wise, it will be a massive mistake.
Well, yes. I mean, Europe is short energy. It steadfastly refuses to, drill for its own resources. Holland closed the biggest gas field in Northern Europe, the Groningen field, a couple of years ago. There's lots of shale gas resources there that they're not exploiting. They're even, in some cases, they're even madder than Miliband on their sort of pursuit of net zero, although that is crumbling now. And we are short of energy too, despite the fact that we could be at least much closer to self-sufficiency if we lifted all these bans on drilling and fracking and so on. But to attach us to, essentially a failing continent that's short energy is, it's just suicide, really.
Yeah, absolutely right. David, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. David Turver there talking about the state of play vis-a-vis the energy levels of this country and exactly what the problem is with Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband. Well, I'll tell you what the problem is they're completely bonkers. That's what the problem is. And they don't know really what they're doing. Net zero is like jumping out of a plane and thinking of how to invent a parachute on the way down, says Wendy. Well said. I think that's right. Or I quite like this idea of David's, which is reattaching the lifeboats to the Titanic, because it does feel a bit like that, doesn't it, as we go through the scenario that we are going through. Straits of Hormuz are victimising the gays of Hormuz, and the buys of Hormuz are sidelined, says Crawford. Yeah, nobody mentions the buys of Hormuz. That hasn't even got a look in, to be honest, which is a shame. Well, we may have to, should we play it again? Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Isn't it a little bit homophobic that we're so focused on the Straits of Hormuz and not the gays of Hormuz?
Yes, I agree. Yes, for sure.
Why do you think they're willing to leave the gays of Hormuz behind?
I think it's just historically, gays have always been very discriminated against, which is wrong on so many levels.
Even in war.
Yeah, even in war. It just takes more reform in government, obviously, and then also educating society.
Just feel like if we're going to go in there, we can't leave the gay people behind.
Right,
I don't think we should go in there at all, but if we're going to, the gays of Hormuz, we could turn it into Fire Island.
For sure.
For those of you who don't know what Fire Island is, it's an island off the coast of Long Island in New York, which happens to be a bit of a gay community. But yeah, the Straits of Hormuz and the gays of Hormuz is one of the great scenarios. Absolutely brilliant. Let's talk to Connie Shaw there from the Free Speech Union, because there's a lot to talk about. I hope you've recovered from your encounter with Matthew Wright, Connie, by the way, which I know you've been writing about quite a lot. I quite enjoyed that. I know Matthew Wright of old, and he's a complete and utter plonker. So I'm glad that you put him to the sword.
Thank you, Mike. Although he's claiming that he was the one who put me to the sword over on Blue Sky. So there's obviously a difference in perspective on that debate or so-called debate that happened on LBC.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. There's lots. I mean, you guys have never been busier, really, at the Free Speech Union. Tell us what you're up to at the moment. What are you working on?
Well, the most recent news is the news that the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has said that non-crime hate incidents will be scrapped, which is obviously good news because that's been one of our biggest campaigns from the very beginning when the Free Speech Union set up 6 years ago. But it's probably not the time to be, as Toby said before, popping the champagne bottles open, because there will be a new regime in place called antisocial behaviour incidents, and they will be recorded, but recorded with a much higher threshold. So it won't be like a non-crime hate incident, which is defined as basically the person who feels that they have been non-hate crimed. It just relies on their perspective and perception. There will be a higher threshold for antisocial behaviour incidents to be recorded, so they'll need a prejudicial qualifier. Now, there isn't really much guidance on what that will be, but it does mean that we're heading in the right direction, but we still don't have any information on whether historic non-crime hate incidents will be scrapped, and we estimate that about 250,000 have been recorded since they were introduced in 2014, and we know that they can pop up on enhanced DBS checks. And if you want to get a job where you need to provide an enhanced DBS check, like if you want to work with vulnerable adults or with children and they pop up, that can stop you from getting a job. So we still don't know if they're going to be scrapped. And of course, non-crime hate incidents will still be in complete operation, business as usual in Northern Ireland and Scotland. It will only be England and Wales where they're scrapped. So unfortunately, there is still a battle to be fought, but we are moving in the right direction. The College of Policing and the National Chiefs Police Council have said that non-crime hate incidents are not fit for purpose, and that whatever the new regime is, needs to take special protection for freedom of speech. And Toby did win a division in the House of Lords to make sure that old non-crime hate incidents will be scrapped, and so we'll see where that goes. So we still have news on that to come.
Sure. I mean, it feels to me as though we've had this conversation before, though, because lots of people have said that they're going to scrap non-crime hate incidents. I think it's often been individuals, say police constabularies, who have said, you know, we're no longer going to do it. But I remember from just last year, I went to Essex and I found out that in Essex, something like, it's a strange statistic, but something like 1.2 people a day are in some way visited by the police for something that they've put on Twitter or social media in some way, shape or form. And so they might not call it a non-crime hate incident, but they're still kind of spending quite a lot of time investigating those kinds of things.
Yes, because we don't. It's not just non-crime hate incidents that the issue. There's so many issues with the Online Safety Act, for example. Things like, and the Communications Act, where you can be done for sending malicious communications, false communications. And so there are many parts of our legislation which means that people are at risk of being basically having the police set upon them for things that they say online. I mean, the Home Office put tweets out the other day saying that they're no longer going to be wasting time on this. But we know that the government in particular is still extremely overzealous with these things. They are very concerned about what's going on online. We know that Labour MPs, for example, hate X. Every time there's a scandal about what Elon Musk is allowing on their platform, we see WhatsApp messages that are being leaked from within Labour MP group chat saying, is this finally our excuse to get off X, that cesspit that it is, because they don't like the fact that there are people on here who can finally say what they really think and scrutinise the government. But we still have huge fights on our hands. It's not just non-crime hate incidents. And as part of Toby's amendment, you know, this guidance isn't enough. It needs to be done in statute. It needs to be said that it is we're scrapping the legislation needs to say that non-crime hate incidents will not be used anymore, because if it's just guidance, then that guidance might not necessarily be strong enough, because we know that the College of Policing is extremely captured. The way that they go through their training, what you need to believe in to be promoted. We hear ex-police officers say that it was really difficult to move forward with their jobs and their careers if they didn't adhere to certain ideologies. And so until it's in our statute books, we shouldn't really be 100% sure that police aren't wasting their time on these sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the cases that you're looking at currently is the one involving Royal Holloway student Brodie Mitchell.
Yes.
Tell us about that. He was based at some kind of pro-Palestinian march scenario. He was told he was a wannabe Jew, questioned why he wasn't wearing a kippah. He described himself as a non-Jewish Zionist, but he's basically been sort of cancelled, if you like, hasn't he, by his own university?
Yeah, and like I've said, I have met many, many students who have been cancelled at university within the last year after I had my problems at Leeds. And I have to say that Brodie Mitchell's story is the worst I have ever heard of. And every time I meet a new cancelled student, I think, surely it can't get worse than this.
Right.
But Brodie said, as you said, Brodie's a non-Jewish Zionist. He's a supporter of Israel. He studies politics and international relations, and this particular case that Royal Holloway has said that they are prepared to spend £750,000 defending themselves, and that money will be coming from student fees, because there was a confrontation between Brodie and I think a president of a Palestinian society, where she said to him, hello, wannabe Jew, or something to that effect. She said the words wannabe Jew, and he laughed it off and said, why are you wearing a tea towel? It was a mutual sort of exchange of sort of unpleasant words. I'm sure, some people might have an opinion on which one was worse, although that's not really the issue here. I think both should have the right to be unpleasant and rude to each other, even if we think that that it might be very rude and unpleasant. Even Brodie said that he wouldn't say what he said in future. He accepts that it was rude. But then the next day, Brodie got an email from his university, and he thought that finally Royal Holloway might be addressing the extreme harassment and abuse that Brodie has been facing. Brodie has really serious death threats against his life. The police have been involved. And he thought maybe the university are finally going to help me with this, because so far he's had almost no support from the university. But instead, it was an email telling him that there had been a complaint about him and that he was given 48 hours to move out of his accommodation because he called
That's ridiculous, isn't it? Is that even lawful?
I couldn't tell you whether it was lawful, but obviously we are challenging it in court. But the issue is that the Royal Holloway is prepared to spend so much money to defend themselves against this, and it's just insane. And so anyone who can support Brodie through our, we have a general crowdfunder to stop blasphemy laws by the back door, because that's essentially what he's been accused of. He was told that his comments were Islamophobic to describe a Palestinian scarf or a keffiyeh as a tea towel, when they do look like tea towels. I mean, it's like Boris Johnson being, getting in trouble with the police or the whatever authorities for saying that the burqa looks like a letterbox.
Yeah.
It seems that there are some cultural garments that you're simply not allowed to mock. And
also, I mean, as you say, it's perfectly legitimate to have an opinion on something, whether it be unpleasant or not. Yes, it would be nice if people weren't unpleasant, but I don't care if somebody calls my makeup idiotic, or if they call me specky because I'm wearing glasses, or they don't like my tie, or they think I'm fat, or whatever. I don't care. I don't pay any attention to it, but they're perfectly entitled to say it. And why should we be not allowed to say it about certain things that are determined by the police to be somehow out of bounds?
Well, precisely. I mean, what the university is doing is essentially, firstly, it's extremely two-tier, which is exactly how Brodie described it. Why is it that it's Brodie? Brodie's the only one who's getting in trouble, not just getting in trouble, but was essentially evicted from his accommodation. He's lost so many weeks of work. He's been given no help to catch up. He is paying for his degree. And as far as I'm aware, he's an exemplary student. He clearly has strong principles, and every student should have the opportunity to campaign for whatever they want on campus. But obviously there is a certain lean bias at Royal Holloway when it comes to what you are and aren't allowed to say, depending on what your political views are. But we know that it's not just universities who want to police people who are being rude to one another. We know that the police go round to people's houses sometimes to tell them to apologise to someone that they have offended online. One of our members who sadly passed away now, Deborah Anderson, she's the lady who had a police officer come through her door, and she filmed the entire interaction, and it was brilliant because when the police officer came in, and she's an American lady, and she said, I know my rights about free speech, I'm an American. She said, I'm also a member of the Free Speech Union, so you better be careful what you're doing. And the police officer literally came round, sat down in her living room and said, you need to apologise to the person you've offended If not, we're going to have to interview you. I mean, that's literally what the police believe their job is sometimes. So no wonder this is, of course, universities are going to be taking this as well. I mean, obviously, this kind of policing people's conversations often originates in universities, but this whole idea that we should be socially engineering what people say to one another just because you might find something unpleasant has infected all parts of our country and society.
And that's the other thing about the whole, non-crime hate incident thing. I mean, we've heard many times, haven't we, that we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing it. And you can't be sure. And as you say, unless you actually go and do an investigation into your own sort of background, you don't know. I mean, I don't know, for example, if somebody's made a complaint about me. There could well be one, but I haven't.
That's the thing, you don't know. If you get given a non-crime hate incident, there's no. It's not necessarily the case that you've been told that you have one, and it might only be until you apply for a job when you have to give an enhanced DBS check when you realise that you have one.
Yeah, which is really awful because it's an invasion in a way of your own privacy. Because at least they should have the decency to let you know that something has happened. I mean, in the way that, I'm not saying that I would want the police to come knocking on my door to say, oh, somebody's complained that you've said something offensive. I mean, I say something offensive about every 5 minutes, which unfortunately could result in all kinds of people complaining. But they should at least have the decency to let you know that this could affect your future employment
maybe
prospects.
Their argument would be it's a non-crime, so you haven't committed a crime, which is the whole point as to why it's so ridiculous. Why should that be on your record? Why should anything be on your record if you haven't committed a crime? And that's why they've been ludicrous from the beginning. Yes,
exactly right. Well, Connie, listen, great work that you're doing, as ever. You probably never managed or imagined that you'd be quite this busy trying to safeguard freedom of speech in this country, but it's a great job that you're doing, and Toby's doing a fantastic job. Do give him my love and good luck to all of you in the coming weeks and months. Good to see you, Connie Shaw there from the Free Speech Union. Worth joining, by the way, the Free Speech Union. It's a fantastic organisation, but it's true, isn't it? And I mean, you might even have some stories that I don't know about. There we are with you just join it up, freespeechunion.org. Is where you go. It's in the super chat. We got some super chats that we should do. Is that what you're saying or no? Oh, okay. Sorry, crossed the lines there with Pooch. I'll tell you what I have got though, and you might have to give me because I finally haven't got it next to me. But I got this from Stephen Myhill. He says he sent in a note saying, "Please can I have a bumper sticker?" But he said also, "I've sent you a present for Mike's sack." And Pooch can use it to rub down one of his pooches, right? And we might, actually, this might be a good time to do Pooch's pooch. But, I looked at this, right, and I said, because I'm pretty sure, I've got to get this the right way up. I'm pretty sure, oh, okay, there you go. Because you can hide behind it. That's great. It's basic, I think it's meant to be Pooch, but it looks like a cross between Pooch and Sadiq Khan, which is why I'm slightly worried about it, because I'm sure I've seen it before. But it's lovely. So, Stephen, thank you very much indeed for that. We will certainly give it to one of our pooches. I don't know whether we have a tug of war about it, because of course, Ziggy down in his house in Sussex is very, very excited about the herring that he got. He's still chewing it. Apparently, he's got a couple of punctures in it now. But he's been spending most of his week getting very, very excited about chewing the herring. So, Stephen, thank you for that. So maybe I'll take it down and put it in his bed for him, because it's very nice. There he is. There he is with his herring. Absolutely loves it. It's like his favourite toy of all time. It's incredible. And I'm told, by the way, that I got it wrong. I said it came from Australia. Apparently, it doesn't come from Australia. It comes from somewhere in the UK, from Mr. McLeod. So thank you for that. I don't know if he's any relation to Fiona McLeod, who is, of course, Donald McLeod's niece, who somehow managed to inveigle her way into reading the news. Don't know why. Should we do a bit of Pooch's Pooch, or should we do the news first? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm delighted to say. Are they? Are they? Are they? Yeah. Well, they might be cross, but they're not as cross as I am, because, Edward Hughes has been suspended, right, for saying some things which I found to be slightly off colour and very possibly marginally libelous. He's basically started talking about his backside and sending pictures to people and all of that, right? Andrew says, Edward might join the Free Speech Union. You don't get free speech. If you're reading the news, right, it's a very serious job, has to be taken seriously. You can't make the news up, one, and you certainly can't, hint at, misdoings and misdemeanours or whatever it is that people might be up to, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't have him back. But also, yeah, exactly. If he's on suspension, you know, like I said, when Hugh Edwards was suspended by the BBC, he didn't turn up for Channel 5 News, did he? Hello, my name is Hugh Edwards, and I've been suspended by the BBC. However, I'm going to read the news here for you. No, you don't do that, right? So instead of that, we've got, but I didn't know this until actually after she was appointed to do the job. Apparently Donald MacLeod has been working behind the scenes and pulling a few strings, and he's got his niece, Fiona MacLeod, in to read the news. I mean, I quite like her, to be honest, and I think she's the future for the Mike Graham Show. But see what you think. Here she is.
Good morning. This is your news with me, Fiona MacLeod. My uncle Donald put me onto this, so I hope I do okay. I hear the previous guy has been suspended. I'm pretty sure I know what he looks like. He sent me a picture. Anyway, here we go. Hunky Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Britain will pursue closer ties with the EU amid the ongoing Iran war, as relations with the US strain over the UK's refusal to get further involved. Starmer also announced the UK will host talks with 35 countries on securing the Straits of Hormuz amid rising energy concerns and fuel price pressures. He's got our backs. So has the EU. Lovely Rachel Reeves indicated future energy bill support will be targeted by household income, but help may not arrive until autumn. She's a babe. The BBC faces scrutiny after it emerged the corporation knew about a police investigation into sexual offences involving presenter Scott Mills as far back as 2017. He has now been sacked. I think the licence fee is the biggest bargain around. Meanwhile, police are investigating after disorder involving large groups of young people in London, linked to a TikTok trend with parents urged to take responsibility. Go Greens. Remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Yeah. She's in Edinburgh, of course, as you can see from the background. It's Princess Street there. Beautiful part of the world. I used to live not far from there, funnily enough. Now, listen, this is a serious point, all right? And I don't want anybody thinking it's not. Edward Hughes was yesterday suspended from the Mike Graham Show as a result of a misdemeanour, which may be more serious than a misdemeanour, actually, because two allegations. One, he said he was going to show his backside to people who might ask to see it, one. And two, he made up a story about Hugh Edwards supposedly getting a new job on Radio 2. Now, as far as I'm concerned, you know, that then becomes a disciplinary... When you work in a company, you become the victim of a disciplinary situation. HR get involved, lawyers get involved. I mean, I should know better than anyone. You know, you get yourself into a kind of place of purdah to an extent, and you're not supposed to go and work anywhere else, you know? When I was waiting to find out what was going on with me and talk, I didn't suddenly pop up on Radio 1 and went, hello, here I am. You know, let's play some hits, ladies and gentlemen. No, I didn't. I had to wait and stay off the air, right? Now, Edward Hughes, I have discovered, while he's supposedly waiting to see what the decision is going to be from the HR department here at the Mike Graham Show, has popped up on another show. Have a look at this.
Good evening. Here's your news with me, Edward Hughes. And, as you may have heard, I've been suspended from the Mike Graham Show. I've been the regular news anchor there, so I can't say that it doesn't hurt. It's gone to HR, and I'm awaiting a tribunal outcome. Back to the news. War abroad, pain at home, and everyone's pretending it's fine. Happy Wednesday, Britain. Back to Richie and Rogue. Laters, Tigers.
So he's apparently working for Richie and Rogue, right? Who are a pair of podcasters in Wales. Who are fine people, people that I know well. I've got them on now. Richie and Rogue, have we got them? No, we haven't got them. Oh, there we are. Richie and Rogue. Look at this. Now, listen, I don't know what you guys are playing at. You know, you cannot hire this guy while he is in purdah, right? He has been suspended. There's an investigation ongoing. You know, what the hell are you thinking?
He reached out. He said to us that he needed to come on our show. We are going to actually stick with our Welsh fellows. I'm afraid it's part of us
and he sent me a photo of his ass, and I
he
thought it was
sent
great.
a photo, and you know, ultimately,
and I just thought, you know, it's a Welsh ass. There's nothing better than a Welsh ass. So I thought we'd get another Welsh ass. I'm a Welsh ass. He's a Welsh ass. We're both Welsh asses together.
Yeah, but hang on. There are. I mean, I know that you people don't, respect contractual obligations, but he is contractually obligated to us, right? He's not allowed to work anywhere else. I mean, when Hugh Edwards was suspended by the BBC, like I said, he didn't suddenly pop up on ITV News at 10 and go, hello, here I am. I'm going to do the news here now. Did he?
Well, this is the Richie and Rogue unfiltered show, Mike. You know, where anything goes. Right? We'll take anyone, right? At this on our show, as you know, right?
I've heard that.
So
yeah.
We even invited you.
We invited you to become the news leader. But
no, you didn't. When?
Oh, yes, we did.
You never invited me on the show. You told me how great the show was and you wanted to come on my show. You never invited me on your show.
Yes, we did. And so now...
Well, I mean, I was quite drunk, I must say. I don't remember it.
I think you should get Rogue on your show, right? In sometime this month to come on and explain full details how it happened, how it came about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, to be honest, I mean, I'm sick of this guy. You know me, I'm not against Welsh people at all, but you can have him. You can literally have him. But the question is, can you afford him, though?
Well, his fees are quite extortionate at the moment, and if we do have to finally sack him and find out that these allegations are true, once he's go through due diligence and everything else in HR with your department,
because you're sorting that out, right?
Yeah, you're sorting that out. You know, it's innocent until proven guilty, Mike. You know, we've got to give this guy a chance.
Yeah. No, listen, my position on this, and I'm not the only one here who makes the decision, but my position on it is that, to be honest, he's let us down. He's been rude on air. He's constantly making references to his arse, which I find, you know, a bit distasteful, to be honest. He's meant to read the bleeding news. And to be honest, Fiona McLeod is a lot better looking.
She's a babe.
She is a babe. Thank you.
She's a babe.
Mike couldn't afford you as a newsreader, though. Couldn't afford you as a newsreader, could he? Let's be honest.
I'm not sure Pooch would be able to handle it, to be honest. You know, he's got enough going on without having to worry about that.
He made his debut last night on our show. He was fantastic for us. So listen, until that process has gone through, Mike, you know, we're going to wait and see what happens.
All
Until
right.
then, he's with the Rogue Show. We've just robbed him from you, mate. We've just robbed him from you.
That's what you've done, like banditos.
Yeah.
You know, so where can we...
Your viewers are having a meltdown. They want him back.
I know they do.
Put it to a poll, man. Put it to a poll. Ask your viewers. Yeah, ask them.
It's a good one.
Should he stay on
In fact, that will be the poll.
or-
That will be the poll tomorrow. You know, should we just let him go to you guys, or should we keep him here? Should we do that as a poll tomorrow? That'll be the thing. So where can people hear you? The Richie and Rogue show.
Well, we're on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Richie and Rogue Unfiltered. Just type that in, simple. Subscribe to us. So we're a brand new channel, Mike, as you know. We do cover all kinds of subjects, you know, current affairs, politics, everything, anything, you know, everything. And it's completely unfiltered, uncensored, unbiased. And it's, of course, the second place of common sense, because yours is the home of common sense.
It is, of course, yeah. We've also have we got that clip that Richie sent us? The you know, when he went out and spoke to people about what way they're going to vote. Is it? Have we got it? We might have it. I don't know if it's not easy.
Oh, that was interesting. That was, yeah.
Because that was really good, actually. It was really good. You tell us about it. You went out and on the streets of was it Caerphilly or
well,
Swansea?
It was Swansea and Cleffy, and Rogue did one in Newtown as well, which we can send you another time. But yeah, basically, we're asking people who they're voting for in the Senate elections, and you'll be shocked actually, because we all live in this political world, this political bubble, right? Political geeks, and we think on X is the real world. It's not. When you're out on the street and you put a mic in someone's face to say who you're voting for, they got a completely different opinion to what most of these political geeks think. Like, you know what I mean? I was shocked when the young people were saying they're voting for Greens.
Yeah, most people, the young people, are generally trending towards the Greens, which
Are
is
they?
completely shocking. Yeah, absolutely. They just don't want to know. And you either have people who are being completely complacent, do not want to vote, or you have the opposite, and they're going, some people are still voting Labour.
Yeah.
Why?
I know. And they go, oh, because my dad voted Labour and, you know, his dad and all that. And you go, but interestingly, I thought, which was really good, was that a lot of people said they were voting Reform. Because you know how there's that kind of shy reformer thing or the shy Tory thing where people don't admit to doing it because they don't want people to think they're Nazis or whatever. But quite a lot of people actually admitted to wanting to vote Reform, didn't they?
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had a guy that was saying that he wanted to go with Reform, but he was worried about how people would view him.
Right.
And I just, look, you have to stand up. You know, the change has to happen in Wales. Wales deserves a chance, you know, to start coming away from what
And Reform
Labour...
is the only answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Reform is the only
I mean,
way.
looking at the polls, though, it looks to me like the Plaid lot will actually end up in charge. Does it not? I mean, because Reform, like a bit like they were in Gorton and Denton, they're sort of almost there, but not quite, seems to me.
Yeah, and the thing is, well, even if Reform do get enough numbers to be in power there, Mark Drakeford on record with BBC News, BBC Wales actually, Mike, came on and did an interview and actually stated that if they do have more seats, what they're going to do is they're going to block votes. All the left wing, so Plaid Cymru, Lib Dems, Greens are going to get a few seats, Welsh Labour, they're going to come together.
Right.
So Reform are not going to be able to pass anything through there anyway. How is that democratic? I mean, it's unbelievable what Drakeford has said, but we know what he's about anyway. He don't believe in democracy. Look what he did during the lockdown period. He didn't give a shit about the people of Wales, and he still doesn't care about the people of Wales, and that's the simple facts of it.
Yeah.
So, look, at the end of the day, the best thing for Wales, you put the country before party. So whether whatever party you're with, if you're on our side of the argument and you want what's common sense, you want to shut the borders, you want to stop undocumented males coming across the water, you want to lower taxes, you want employment to be better, you want the health system to be better, you want public services to be better, your best option is to vote for Reform in Wales. That's the only option that we've got right now.
I mean, you guys have got a great advantage though, because you've got two bridges, haven't you? I mean, I know you can get in the north a different way, but you can shut the two bridges. And one thing that I always used to find amazing when I used to work down there is you've got to pay to go into Wales, but it's free to come out. How does that work?
Yeah, but it wasn't the Welsh taking the money. I believe it was the French who owned the bridge at the time. So we were
the French owned it. What is this, the new one or the old one?
Well, we would pay the debt off to the French, so it wasn't even our money. But Mark, they brought in a tourism tax now, Mike. If you come across that bridge now, you're still going to have to pay anyway because they're charging a tourist tax now in Wales. You know that?
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
I haven't been. I used to be there. I used to spend a lot of time in Cardiff, and I was there every week. I haven't been there for a long time. I used to stay at the St David's Hotel and Spa, which was rather nice over the Cardiff Bay.
Down at Cardiff Bay, very nice down there, Mike. Very, very nice. Yeah,
those were the days.
Congestion charges as well now in Cardiff and city centre. You got to pay to come in like you do in London. They're following the same playbook as City Can. It's happening here in Wales as well, exactly the same. Right. And we need real change, absolutely. But listen, Edward Hughes is going to be on our show on Sunday night, so make sure you get your.
Not if our lawyers get involved, we might have to put a stop to that. But people are saying, bring back Edward Hughes. Edward Hughes is innocent. I mean, I don't know. What time on Sunday?
Sunday night at 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Okay, good. Well, listen, we'll look out for that because by Sunday night, usually I'm worn out from all the doing nothing for 2 days. So I'll just try and get back into working. But listen, great to see you both. When are you coming up to the studio here?
I think we try 17th of April. I think we'll be speaking to your producer. So 17th of April is a date in the diary. So we'll both be there, mate. We're looking forward to it. We'll have a right old good chat.
All right, good stuff. And if it comes to it, and it turns out that you get to take Edward Hughes off my hands, I'd be more than happy, to be honest. There are plenty of people who want him to stay. Here's one says, MF, I've started a poll to replace Mike with Rogue. It's much easier on the eye.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, I could wear a low cut top if that's all it takes.
When I come in, we'll have a low cut off.
Yeah, whatever you say. Anyway, that's enough of that sort of talk. It's very early in the morning. 9:10. That's enough of that. Off you go. And you're looking great, by the way, both of you, for this time of the morning, has to be said. Yes. Thank you very much indeed. That's Richie and Rogue, Sunday night, 8 o'clock, with Edward Hughes and the news. We prefer, I think, Fiona McLeod, to be honest. And I'll tell you who I also prefer is Ellie Hodges, who's just turned up. Ellie, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
I'm glad I could make it. It's better late than
never.
I
heard that you were having some trouble on the old public transportation system. What's going on out there?
The Victoria line's got severe delays, so it was just stopping at every station for about 15 minutes.
Oh, there's nothing worse, is there? And once you're down there, you're kind of stuck. You're kind of going, should I come up and try and get a bus? What should I do? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you're here to talk about the National Education Union, which formerly was the National Union of Teachers, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And they changed their name, I think, because they didn't like to be called nuts, which is what they all are, by the way. Usual rules, run by Marxists, completely and utterly ridiculous. You discovered their sort of policy document a little bit earlier in the week, which refers to their views on various political parties, including the fact that they basically hate reform. So tell us what you found.
Yeah, so I found the kind of agenda of the conference. So they have a 3-day conference. They started the first day with Zach Polanski speaking at it, of course. And bear in mind, this is the biggest teachers' union that we have. There's around 500,000 members. So it's very, very big. And they had in this manual different kind of what they were going to talk about at the conference. So they spoke about how they need to promote reforms negatives in classrooms. So they voted for a motion yesterday that they're going to go back to their schools, back to their classrooms, and talk about reform in a negative way.
Right.
They said that we need to have the full force of the union behind stopping a Reform UK government.
Wow.
And
so they're quite open about it.
You're very, there's lots of
this is not behind the scenes. This is like in big speeches and all
yeah,
that.
exactly. There's lots of it. And I think that Zach Polanski speaking there is enough to make you see what their political beliefs really are. But I also think that I'm not going to generalise all teachers and say that every single teacher agrees with this, because there's many teachers. I can imagine if you just come into the teaching profession and you've just got your qualifications, you're really excited, and then you realise, okay, I'm going to join a union. They join this, they go to a conference, and everyone's kind of nodding along to all of this stuff. Sometimes it is easier to just go along with it.
Is it a bit like the BMA? You know how we've got doctors' strikes looming at the moment. They're supposedly starting, I think, on Tuesday of next week after the bank holiday weekend. And I know whenever I speak to doctors that there's a lot of doctors who are working in the NHS, but they're not in the BMA.
Yeah.
And so they don't, one, go on strike, but also they don't vote to go on strike. And similarly with teachers, I think you don't have to be in the union, do you?
Yeah, exactly. So I've had a lot of teachers actually message me and say, oh, I'm part of this union, but I don't agree with it. But it's, you have to be part of a union.
But it's difficult
it's
not
very
to,
difficult not to be. So I just going to read out some of the things that were said. So it stated, this is part of their motion, reaffirm the union's opposition to all forms of racism, fascism and far-right extremism, including the divisive politics promoted by Reform UK.
I love how they kind of include it all in, fascism. And,
I know.
It's not
and they're saying that Reform is a divisive party and they have divisive politics,
but the Greens
whilst
aren't.
Inviting Zach Polanski to speak.
Well, even the Greens, it now turns out, have got their own problems because there's quite a few. I don't know if we've got that clip actually, have we, Pooch? The one about the Islamist sort of faction of the Greens who are basically saying that we don't like some of the things that we're seeing. Like, for example, they didn't like the dancing on stage at the weekend because it was all a bit kind of LGBT.
It's a very weird combination of people you have in the Greens.
But this is the thing, and people are saying that it's not a sustainable kind of merger, if you like, of political ideology, because on the one hand you've got some very socially conservative people, i.e. the Muslim vote, who don't really enjoy LGBT activities, and certainly who don't believe in sort of free sexuality for members of their communities.
I think the only thing that's holding the Greens together in many ways in keeping this alliance is the pro-Palestine movement. That's the one thing that they all have in common.
Yes. But we've always said, but we've always said, the whole idea of queers for Palestine, which is what they call, is so mad. I think we've got the clip. Let's have a look.
Stop scrolling. This could change your life. The Green Party supports self-identifying gender laws, which means I can wake up in the morning, or Shaquille can wake up in the morning as a 6-foot man with a beard and identify as a woman.
Absolutely. For what everyone must remember, in Denton and Gorton, the Muslims that supported the Green Party did so in a vote of protest. We must understand that the Green Party's policy are way further than even the Labour Party's policy. We must have independent candidates who speak for the hymns of their people and not people who are sitting in London in fancy suits.
There are safeguarding issues as well as moral issues. Women's sports, men can compete in them. Women's spaces, toilets, men can go inside them. These are not little concerns. These are major concerns for the community and beyond. And we will continue to identify every policy of the Greens and every other party that goes against your moral and philosophical beliefs. Remember that.
See, I think that's quite an interesting development. It's suddenly because the first kind of sign of weakness, if you like, of the Greens kind of... we were just talking to Richie and Rogue down in Wales there, who was saying they've been out canvassing people and asking them what they're going to vote. And a lot of young people, an awful lot of young people, are going to vote Green.
Yes.
Because they're kind of, I think, perhaps misinformed about what it is that they stand for. But watching that, and those are two guys who I think are independent councillors, but with a kind of Green agenda, I think that it's going to split the Green vote massively.
I think that once these people actually find out what the Green Party is about and realise, actually, okay, it is pro-Palestine, but apart from that, it goes against everything that I believe in. There will definitely be a loss of support, especially from the Muslim community. And we saw as well the Greens playing to this by, in the Gorton and Denton by-election, sending out the leaflets in Urdu, not putting any of the trans stuff, any of the you can identify as whatever you want on that. they were just putting about pro-Palestine and that's it. So it shows that I think a lot of people that are putting their support behind the Greens don't actually know some of their policies. I think that's definitely true.
Yeah.
And I think, young people will be supporting the Greens because, linking it back to this story, their teachers are having Zach Polanski speak at their national conference and they're going to go back with new, fresh ideas that Zach Polanski has given them on how to encourage young people to vote for the Greens. So you can't be surprised that this is happening. And a lot of people were putting on my Twitter, they're going, oh, but trade unions have always been political. Yes, of course they have. But I think the problem here is that their whole entire conference is basically devoted to political messaging. There doesn't really seem to be that much about how they're going to improve education.
No, but I mean, I don't mean to sound like insulting here, but I mean, it's not that long since you were at school.
Yeah, exactly.
My kids, who are a bit younger than you, used to say to me all the time that, and one of them's a bit more right wing than the other, but they would go, you'd go into school and they'd be sort of basically dissing the Daily Mail, saying, don't read the Daily Mail, it's a terrible thing. They shouldn't be telling kids that, should they?
I do think that a lot of people brush past it because it's not as simple as, as you said, I've been through this as well. It's not as simple as you have an assembly of teachers just going, vote for Labour, vote for the Greens.
Yeah.
That's not what they're doing. They're introducing concepts like white privilege or pro-Palestine or trans stuff, whatever it is, that do actually align to left-wing parties. So it's not as simple as them just straight up saying, vote for this party. Yeah. They're introducing ideas and concepts.
It's a way of life. I remember going into my kids' school, their secondary school, for the first time to go to some parents' evening or something like that. And I was quite shocked to see that on every notice board, and there was one every kind of 20 yards down the corridors, was a poster of a Stonewall.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of going, I've got nothing against Stonewall, I've got nothing against, the LGBT community, but why is the only poster which I can see is
it's just
something
really performative.
Yeah.
It's so performative. It's like when you see in schools now they have pride zebra crossings just so you can get in school. And I just think a lot of these things as well. Like, I know many people that are part of like the LGBT, not the T community, and they say, I don't want this. It makes you feel more different and it makes you feel like, oh, so I have to walk through a pride zebra crossing. Like, I just want to be seen as the same as everyone else. And I think that's how a lot of people feel. And I think that all of these different concepts and, even like the anti-racism and, the white privilege kind of thing, I think they actually have the opposite effect a lot of the time. And actually, I think the majority of people in this country don't judge people based on the colour of their skin or their sexuality.
Well, no, because it's not something that I wouldn't go up to somebody and ask them, what's your sexuality?
Yeah, no
Why
one
would
cares.
you? I'm not interested,
Exactly. So I think that by introducing all of these different things, it actually makes people start to think about it more, and then more things are happening because they're thinking about it all the time. And I think it's like Black History Month, for example. I find that ridiculous as well.
Sure.
Because you're relegating the whole of Black history into 1 month.
And you're making it a special
part of history,
thing. Yeah, yeah, exactly right. And I don't know how you cover it because obviously you can't cover everything.
Yeah.
And you can't teach everything. But I remember one of my kids was telling me that one of the things that they studied was the Vietnam War. Fascinating, interesting, cool kind of thing to do. But I don't understand why it's part of a British historical curriculum. Why are you studying the Vietnam War? What's that got to do with Britain?
I actually, on the way here, on the PAX tube journey, I ended up sitting next to, I think, what is the product of wokeness and performative, very, very performative. So it's this guy, bright pink hair. He had about 5 different badges on, pro-Palestine, stop arming Israel, a pink skirt, and I was just like, this is like ridiculous.
That's the Victoria line for you, though.
Yeah, just why
Comes in
though?
from sort of Hackney, doesn't it?
It's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and you're trying to make a political statement.
It's like,
on the tube.
this is me. These are all my messages.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, it's weird. I was reading a piece in the Times today, actually, which is about the same conference. But it's about how more than £15 million of compensation has been paid to teachers in the last year alone. Who have asked for it for all sorts of things, including being punched and kicked and spat at by children. One teacher said that she was pushed to the floor, kicked 14 times, children also being assaulted by classmates. I mean, that sounds to me like something which is a bit more serious than telling people, whether they should read the Daily Mail or not.
I do think that education as a whole is in a very, very dire state. And it's because I went into my old school to do like a talk the other day about being in the media and stuff. And I spoke to some of the teachers afterwards, and one of the pastoral ladies actually said to me, she's like, we're not like even just a school anymore. We're not here to teach. We're now taking the role of parents, and we're having to refer people to hospitals. We're having to do this, having to do that. And this is the problem, is when you widen the responsibility of what a school is meant to be, it means that there's more issues because you can put less attention into actually teaching, and you're putting more attention into caring and taking on the role of the parent.
Right. But this is the whole thing about the government, isn't it? Because you've got Bridget Phillipson, one of the worst ministers, I think, in history, who's now obviously the Secretary of State for Education. And they believe in this kind of nanny statism. They believe in giving everybody a free school meal, a free school breakfast, breakfast clubs. That's all they talk about.
Do you go
and
with
it's
that?
like, well, sorry, if you're a parent and you are not feeding your child, then for me, you should be investigated by the social services, and you might have to have that child taken off you. And, it's not right, I don't think, for those of us who have had kids and have put them through school to now be paying for other people's kids to get a free meal.
You can
it's
get a box of
ridiculous.
cereal for like £2.50, £2.
Yeah.
If you get a cheaper
Or
one,
just
then
give
it's
them a
even
banana,
cheaper than that. And that can last you, a couple of days or even a week. So I think
it's not just what it is that they're eating, it's the fact that we're taking away responsibility from the parent
that's the
saying,
main
oh,
thing.
don't worry, if you can't be bothered feeding your child, just drop them off with us and we'll give them some food.
Yeah, a job of a school is to teach, not to be the parent and not to take on all those responsibilities. And parents are becoming much more reliant on schools to look after their children.
Yeah, good question coming in from Matthew. He says, I'd like to know how Ellie and Connie Shaw that is, have avoided the woke mind virus that's indoctrinated in schools and universities. How did you manage to avoid it?
I don't really know.
So sensible?
I don't really know. I think I don't know. I mean, how I came across politics at the start was, I think I was just scrolling through YouTube and I clicked on a video.
Right.
I might have
At
been
what age
TV
would you say
News
you
or
started to do
something,
that?
Maybe 15 or
Right.
something. And then I just started watching things like that. And I mean, I've always been someone who's very much loves to debate and loves to kind of talk about issues. And I think
But you're
that's
very
kind
good
of
at it. I mean,
helped.
I don't wish to, butter you up, but I mean, we were at a function together a few weeks ago and you made a little speech and it was great. And I thought, for somebody as young as you, and I don't want to sound patronising,
No,
I mean, you're really good at
worry.
it, though.
Thank you. Thank you, yeah.
Did you get a chance to do that at school? Did you kind of...
A bit, but I mean, you can't really talk about these kind of issues at school.
Right.
I mean, I always debated and I was always very much, if a teacher pushed a left-wing opinion, I'd always say, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
So I think they actually stopped doing it in front of me because they realised that I was always going to object to it. But I think that although we can all the time talk about how young people are all lefties, there is a lot of young people who actually are waking up. And I think that that's a positive of social media, actually, in many ways, because you can come across other opinions and you can think, actually, hold on a second, what's that about? And I think that, I didn't go to university, so I think that's a big thing
That's
as well.
another plus.
And I think that the problem with universities as well is that I've seen people that do not care about politics at all. They have never had an interest in politics.
Yeah.
They go to university, then they come out of university and they're suddenly protesting.
Right.
I'm like, you were never interested in this before.
Because it becomes a thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of young people now, because there's so much to do, that you've got a phone that's there 24 hours, mass consumption of everything. You've got consumerism, I think that a lot of people then think, oh, I want to have something that's my thing, that I can cling on to and have a cause that I can go out and protest for and feel like I'm doing a good thing, which is why a lot of people end up at these pro-Palestine marches not really knowing what they're marching for.
No, exactly right. Well, when you ask them, I mean, we've got the classic, I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
Shall we play it again? Oh. This is brilliant.
Okay.
The Straits of Hormuz, this one is. If you haven't seen this is amazing. I don't know if you can hear it. Have you got an earpiece on this?
Okay.
All right, let's try and do it. By the way, while you're getting prepared for that, I can just talk because that's what I do. Coming up at 9:30, and what we've been doing all week is, I don't know if we've got a call to take, but we're able to take phone calls now, believe it or not, which is kind of cool. And we've had 2 the last 2 days, and we might take another one now, because what we're attempting to do is create this second channel called UK Live, which is going to have other shows on it. And so come, I suppose, I don't know, a few weeks maybe, a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so down the road, a little bit later than we would hope, because we wanted to do it a little bit earlier. But what will happen is at 9:30, when my show finishes, you will be able to go over to this other channel called UK Live, and there'll be another show, which will take you through the next hour, or maybe the following hour, or the following hour. And the idea is basically that we will create a sort of a 24-hour channel where you can basically watch very smart people, very interesting people doing their shows for the whole day, because you don't want to watch the BBC. What's the point? You don't want to watch Sky. GB News is a bit boring. This will be far more interesting. But anyway, I think you've now got an earpiece.
I've now got an earpiece.
So have a look at this. This is one of the funniest videos I think I've seen, certainly this month. Have a look.
Isn't it a little bit homophobic that we're so focused on the straights of homos and not the gays of homos?
Yes, I agree. Yes, for sure.
Why do you think they're willing to leave the gays of homos behind?
I think it's just historically, gays have always been very discriminated against, which is wrong on so many levels.
Even in war.
Yeah, even in war. And it just takes more reform in government, obviously, and then also educating society.
Just feel like if we're going to go in there, we can't leave the gay people behind.
Right,
I don't think we should go in there at all, but if we're going to, the gays of homos, we could turn it into Fire Island.
For sure.
Oh my God!
And that's on a university campus in America, right? Where it never occurred to me to think of the Straits of Hormuz as a thing describing straight people, right? But he's gone there and gone, what about the gays of Hormuz? She's, oh yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
they should be looked after. They should be, treated the same way. You just think, what are you doing? What are you thinking?
Oh, I know. I mean, you just see some of these videos as well at all of these protests, at some of the pro-Palestine protests, like, so where is Palestine? And they're like,
Well, this is one of the things. This is a good one actually. That I was talking to Lance Foreman yesterday, who is a very successful businessman, runs an incredibly well-run fish organisation, sells the best smoked salmon in the world actually. And he was saying, Zach Polanski talks about a world without borders, but he wants there to be a state in Palestine. And it's like, is that the only place he wants to have? Yeah. And you kind of go, it's true. There's no logic to any of this kind of weird
so
lefty
many comments
mind
that,
stuff.
I'm not going to say that all people who are left-wing are, as bad as that, but there's so many left-wing arguments that you can just dismantle with like one sentence, click of a finger.
Exactly. This from Seaside Babe. My daughter called a teacher out for addressing the class with her hard left views. I was so proud of her. My Emmy said, stop trying to brainwash us.
Yes.
Which is true.
Good. Get your kids to stand up for what they believe in classrooms, because it's so important. And even if they feel like they're, put down at the start, just keep going. Because my logic was always, if I'm in a classroom and a teacher says something that, I disagree with, or is actually not true, and I then call it out, that classroom now, all of those students have been put in front of them 2 different views, and they can decide for themselves.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about, you're annoyed at the comments to call out the teacher. You want the rest of the class to know that there isn't just one argument. It's not just the teacher's opinion.
Totally. Absolutely right. Brilliant. Great to see you, Ellie. Thank you very much indeed.
Lovely to see you. I'm glad I could actually make it.
No, I'm glad you did as well. A couple of comments before. What was that noise, by the way, earlier? It sounded like there was some kind of mixing. The heating came on. It makes such a racket. I don't know if that could be heard. I have faith in the younger generation. Connie and Ellie are impressive.
Oh, was Connie
says
here?
Plant Seeds. No, she was on just before you, but she was down the line. She wasn't actually in the office. But she was doing great work at the Free Speech Union.
Yeah,
Ellie's a lovely young girl and talks a lot of sense, says Amanda.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you very much indeed. If Ellie is the face of the next generation of young ladies, the world will be looking a lot brighter. Beauty and brains will certainly. Yeah, absolutely. And also, it's great, isn't it, that we've got the ability to platform people like yourself, because you wouldn't get on the BBC probably very much.
Oh no, definitely not.
Have you ever tried?
Well, I actually had one call from the BBC before. They wanted me to go on one of their Sunday shows, and it was about the special relationship with Trump and Starmer, and they called me. I was like, okay, so we need to know what your opinions are before you come on.
Yeah, they always
and then
do
I told them, and then they were like, actually, maybe you're not fit for this.
Yeah, not ready for the BBC.
I didn't
know.
think so.
I used to hate that about this. I used to get calls from Good Morning Britain quite a lot, and they would spend like 45 minutes asking you what you thought about this, that.
What exactly you're going to say.
And then by the time you went on, you'd literally have about a minute. And I'm like, you're now going to spend 40 minutes asking me about what I'm going to say for a minute. Really? Honestly?
I do find that really annoying. I find that annoying in general, where like when I've interviewed people before, for example, and what exactly are you going to ask me? I know I'm going to.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I don't ever
or if
know.
I say yes to it.
Whenever people say that to me, I'm like, I don't actually know what I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, I know, because you think about it.
Yeah, it's a
depending
conversation.
on what they say as well.
It's a conversation.
And I'm just like, come on, especially if you're a politician, you should be used to answering whatever question comes your way.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Or do you want to do it on the other side?
Yeah, do it on the other side.
Let's do it on the other side, because this is where we switch over now, because we've got to get disciplined about this, Pooch. It's already 9:32. And so we go to UK Live, right, which is the new channel. So stay where you are. If you want to find it, you have to look for UK Live online. But if you're on the YouTube channel right now, and where the YouTube chat is, you will get a little prompt which you can click on, and it will take you over to UK Live. And what we'd like you to do when we do that is to have you subscribe to it as well, because the more of you that subscribe, the more influential this channel becomes quickly as it goes. And when we do that, we'll read some comments out. We'll do a little bit of Pooch's Pooch. Cindy might be calling from America, from Michigan. And also, I'll give you my meltdown of the day, which is all about NATO. Because apparently Donald Trump says he's going to give up on NATO and he's going to leave. I can't say I blame him, to be honest. So I'm just waiting to see the prompt, if I can.
Say goodbye on this one, Mike.
So cheerio. Thank you all of you for watching. Thank you to Charlotte for setting it all up. Thank you to Ellie. Thank you to Pooch. Thank you to all the other great guests that we had. And of course, the government for being so completely useless that we have plenty to talk about every single day that we come in. I'll be back at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Right now, though, you need to switch yourself over to the new channel, which is UK Live.